It's 10 a.m., July 25th, 2023. We are here in the executive conference room in the hearing room, Board of Supervisors hearing room for a regular board meeting for the Board of Supervisors, Cochise County. Any item on this agenda is open for discussion and possible action. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, and justice for all. Thank you. All right. So we will now, I guess there's a few more announcements. The order or deletion of any item on this agenda is subject to modification at this meeting. The board may vote to recess into an executive session for the purpose of obtaining legal advice from the board's attorney on any matter listed on the agenda pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A and 3. I will begin with the roll call. Supervisor District 1.
Crosby, sir.
District 2.
Supervisor English is present.
And District 3, Supervisor Judd. Members of the public may attend this meeting via Microsoft Teams computer or mobile app or via phone by calling 602-609-7513 or 888-680-6714, conference ID 493-791-212 #. If you have trouble accessing this meeting remotely, call 520-432-9200 for direction. The board may permit public comment during the discussion of any item on the agenda. To speak on an agenda item or during the call to the public, complete and return the speaker request form to the clerk of the board prior to the start of the meeting. Note that some attachments may be updated after the agenda is published. This means that some presentation materials displayed at the board meeting may differ slightly from the attached version. We will begin today with a call to the public. Our first speaker is Alfred Kern. You have 3 minutes. Please, everyone, when you start, give us your name and your address.
Okay, everybody knows I'm Alfred Kern. I live in 3460 East Greenwash in Douglas. Anyway, here again to speak why my road is not being graded. And why are the roads that have no homes on it are being graded? It doesn't make any sense. You know, San Mateo, Madrone, Cipriano, no homes on them, but yet they're graded. Tell you principle, we got over 30 homes on and back in that area, and the road is not touched. I ended up, for the last meeting, I called Gail Griffin. 2 days after I called her, they put traffic counters on the road. They graded Cipriano, San Mateo, and Madrone twice in that 2-week period. They didn't touch mine. I don't know what the problem is, but it needs to be resolved, whatever the problem is. Just about everybody here has heard me talk for the past 18 months, twice a month, and nothing is being done. So I don't know how many times I can say this, the exact same thing. But is everybody listening? You know, part of the county supervisor's jobs is to determine, to evaluate the secondary roads. Are you doing it? I don't think so. Yeah. So anyway, like I said, I've been coming here for 18 months now, twice a month. Everybody's heard me. I don't think I even need this microphone because everybody's heard me. So I'm pretty much done. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is on Teams, Monty Matheson.
Thank you. Just a real quick sound check. This is Monty Matheson. My address is 3716 Miller Street, Sierra Vista, Arizona. Am I coming in clear?
Yes, you're clear.
Okay, thank you so much. I kind of wanted to call to register my polite alarm and concern with the whole mail-in ballot initiatives, to where we're only just having mail-ins and the proposals to have only mail-in only in the future. I have problems with that, and I have problems also with the jail tax as it is and as it is being enforced. The true mark of the U.S. Republic is the rule of law, not just merely representation. We left a representative government when we left the United Kingdom. Arguably, conditions for suffrage in the UK were more generous than in the early United States. You just had to have 40 shillings as opposed to being a landowner. But the importance is the rule of law. And I remember explaining to a UK soldier when I was in Afghanistan with him that, when they compared their monarchy, their queen, to our president, I said, that's not the comparison. The comparison is your queen to our Constitution. And the Constitution places hard limits on our governments and on our laws, not mere guidelines. And it is not merely up to the judges to enforce that. Every branch and every level of government is responsible for upholding it. And you can't expect citizens to follow lower laws and statutes if the government is not following the higher laws. And in the Constitution of the state of Arizona now, it requires a 60% vote in order to establish a new tax. And the jail tax did not pass by a 60% vote. And it was only about 32% of us that voted. My wife and I voted against. And if it was just a mere matter of public wins, that's okay. But the Constitution right now says it has to be 60%. Indeed, I'm opposed to that. I'm opposed to a lot of the things as far as voting by mail, because what happens is people just get them, vote, and send it in without even listening to the debate. And the debate is more important than the vote itself, I would argue. I mean, as important as voting is, as important as representation is, the debate, so that we are an informed voter, an informed republic, is more important than the debate. Not debating is not American. And I realize that sometimes the hallmarks of the debate are unpleasant. I'm sure all three of our councilmen have been subject to that, sometimes unfairly, but if we're going to be honest with ourselves, some of it is fair. I've been the subject of fair criticism before. The answer is not to shut out debate or to make it so the debate is more difficult, but to actually make it more doable. I can't think of any bigger conspiracy theory in the history of the United States than the agents of Jefferson saying that Adams was a hermaphrodite. Adams didn't shun debate. He used his ability to debate to win and to reverse the record. So I want to encourage
Your
the council
time
members
is
to call
up.
off your lawyers. All right.
Thank
To call off
you.
the lawyers. Thank you.
Thank you.
And submit to the will of the Constitution.
Our next speaker is Randall Limbach, and he is on Teams as well. Randall Limbach. I'm going to set his aside in case he comes on in a second. The next speaker is on Teams, Radford Hyde. Radford Hyde, are you on Teams?
Good
Unmute
morning.
yourself. There you go. Okay. Welcome.
Hi.
Please begin speaking.
Hi, this is Radford Hyde, and I'm in Sierra Vista, Arizona. And I'm calling and urging strong decision-making here to not go forward with any mail-in voting. And, Ms. Chairman, you were a staunch supporter of election integrity, and you know all of the details. I think we know right now who's proposed to vote for it, who's proposed to vote against it. And I'm speaking directly to you. You're the swing vote. You know the details. You know this isn't right. You know in your heart. You need to vote with it this time. They cannot continue pushing these mail-in ballots. And I'd like to quote from a TV show. Peter Baelish from Game of Thrones. Sometimes when I try to understand a person's motives, I play a little game. I assume the worst. What's the worst reason they could possibly have for saying what they say and doing what they do? Then I ask myself, how well does that reason explain what they say and what they do? Everybody along here knows that the Marxists and communists are marching toward America. And this is one of their baby steps in their 100-year plan, and somebody's finally going to have to put up a gauntlet. Please vote against this stupidity. If you want to give away the country, go to some other country and give that one away, but not ours. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to go back just this one time to Randall Limbach. Are you available on Teams? Okay. The next speaker is also on Teams, Kara Harris. Kara Harris, are you there?
This is Kara Harris. I live at 2265 North Mustang Heights Road in Huachuca City. Good morning, Cochise.
We can hear you. Kara, are you still there?
Am I here in the boardroom?
Keep speaking.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Good morning. Okay, good morning, Cochise County citizens and members of our Board of Supervisors. My name is Kara Harris. I live at 2265 North Mustang Heights Road in Huachuca City, also known as Whetstone. Here I go again, me, a simple person, reminding you, the ones who supposedly know the law and yet don't hesitate to break those very same laws. Despite Miss English's eye rolls when our U.S. Constitution and our Arizona State Constitution are mentioned, those documents mean something to we the people. The reputation of our county attorney's office offers little assurance they follow the law when the very same attorney interrupts board members trying to control and not advise. They are here at the behest of the board, not to interrupt or disrupt. At the last Board of Supervisors meeting, the call to the public was so confusing as the agenda was totally out of order. From my humble perspective, the way it was written violated the open meeting law. Had I known there were 2 calls to the public, I would have filled out 2 forms. This agenda is no less confusing and probably totally illegal. This time we see 2 items not on the agenda, so we can address them. This concerns mail-in ballots. This form of voting is not what we the people want. We want to return to the precincts for voting. No voting centers where fraud takes place. No voting machines that have proven to be hackable. Mail-in ballots only for the exceptions like our brave military members. We had a system for those who could not get out of their cars easily. This said, I remember the patriot, Leo Trader, struggling to walk in, but doing so in order to exercise his right to vote. He is my neighbor. This fiasco of mail-in elections is the only way to disenfranchise more voters. And we, the citizens, we, the people, we, your employers, politicians, we employ you, are asking you to go back to paper ballots, 1 day, 1 vote, and let us run our own precincts like we did at the Whetstone Fire Station. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jeff Sturgis. He is also on Teams.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Once again, we witness, I'll tell you, I am from Sierra Vista. Once again, we witness the incompetence of Cochise County Recorder David Stevens. Once again, we see that it takes lawsuits against our county to reverse the misdeeds of David Stevens, supported by 2 of our equally incompetent county supervisors. It has taken a recent successful lawsuit to invalidate a petition by the group Save Our Water seeking to repeal the AMA Water Initiative. Recorder David Stevens met with the organizers seeking to repeal the Douglas AMA. He apparently failed to tell them that there is no authority to reverse the Douglas AMA by a local initiative, which was the main point of the group's petition. He also failed to tell the group about the important requirements of submitting petitions. Yes, this is David Stevens' basic incompetence revealed once again. And then there is Elections Director Bob Varble, hired by Stevens and approved by 2 members of the Board of Supervisors. Bob, according to the reports, lied on his application, and Stevens did not question why Bob would not allow others to contact his previous employers. Bob nonetheless revealed his incompetence to his new employer, our county, by revealing that he did not know that all signed petitions are required to be submitted at the same time, not in batches. He was also unaware, apparently, that all petitions are required to have the exact same wording. The group Save Our Water turned in 2 different batches of signed petitions with different wording on each of them. Due to the lawsuit, Bob will not be allowed to place the Save Our Water initiative on the ballot. As a recent letter to the editor in the Herald Review asks, why does it take a lawsuit to compel Recorder David Stevens, salary $63,800, and Elections Director Bob Varble, salary $95,000 to do their jobs? Also pointed out in the letter, this is the 8th time that an election-related lawsuit has been brought against Cochise County in about as many months. Is this a result, if this is a result of electing Republicans to the office in Cochise County, isn't it time to think of changing things around? Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Daniel LaChance. He's in person.
I think we had an open meeting law violation. So I will be investigating that. 2 meetings scheduled at the same time. I'm not sure that that's legitimate. So I'm going to answer that area. So I want to talk about the unjust jail district that's being imposed on us. I want to give credit to Bishop Robert Barron and some of the comments that I'm going to make. He asks what kind of persons we ought to be. Do we hunger and thirst for righteousness, or do we seek our own advantage? In a way, there is no question in the moral and spiritual order more fundamental than that. He talks about Socrates. Socrates is one of the greatest philosophers in the history of mankind. You may be familiar with him. Socrates' position is simply, suffering injustice is terrible. What is worse is the corrosion of soul that takes place when one commits injustice. In other words, being unjust is far more damaging to the moral structure of a person's character than enduring the slings and arrows of injustice. So on 11 July 23, upon hearing that the Board of Supervisors had acted unjustly against the citizens, Tom Crosby, an anti-corruption activist and leader his entire career, and being of, by, and for the citizens, voted not to approve the jail district budget. But Peggy Judd and Ann English, not skipping a beat, violated their oath of office to the Constitution and unjustly voted to impose a jail district budget from a tax which was also unjustly imposed. Having failed to meet the provisions of Arizona Constitution, Article 4, Part 1, Section 1, subparagraph 8, and while constituting the jail district and violating numerous Arizona revised statutes before and during the election. Why is my time already here? Certifying an uncertifiable election with no chain of custody and substandard identity. Then, knowing county only needed a $40 million budget and still continued to force $1/3 billion revenue stream of unobligated tax fund money, a slush fund, they again violated the Constitution by ignoring the supermajority requirement. You have an executive session coming up on Thursday. You must correct the injustice you have brought on the citizens who pay for all of this, and vote the jail district tax null and void. This is not about law enforcement. I love that man right there. I know he'll be standing for all of us, protecting all of us should he need to. This is about corruption in government. We did not consent to this unlawful creation of the jail district, to the use of machines, or an all mail-in election. And we want it fixed, and we want it fixed now. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Rebecca Allen Jones, and she is in person.
Good morning. Good morning, Madam Chair and Supervisors. My name is Rebecca Allen Jones. I have just moved from England after 16 years as a missionary. On behalf of Miracle Valley Oasis Center, thank you for your determination to handle the future of the historic Miracle Valley Bible College property with care today. I've provided handouts to assist you. May 17th, SHPO released a determination of eligibility for the property to be listed in the National Register of Historic Places. According to statutes 41-861 and 2, this determination now requires the county to preserve the historic property, which has been classed as being of exceptional importance, to ensure whoever it is sold to also takes the same care. This determination means the county shall not proceed with demolition, asbestos abatement of any buildings. It is your legal duty to assure the property is preserved, which includes not selling it to any party which may not fully preserve all the historic buildings for positive future use. When a property is state-owned, the county, as well as members of the public, may nominate it to be listed. SHPO has been supporting me in the process of nominating all the buildings associated with A.A. Allen's ministry to be listed as a historic district, which is fantastic. This nomination is something I'm currently undergoing with SHPO. You have an opportunity today to lead in saving a historic property in our county, which was once instrumental in helping start the civil rights movement. Please use this session to ensure that agency and future bidders will act in the best interest of the preservation of the property. This will not be a typical auction. The law requires that you must not simply sell to the highest bidder, but also carefully vet all potential builders so that you ensure they will act in the best interest of both the historic property and our community, something I would expect of myself as well. Potential auction participants should be fully vetted for you to meet the statute requirements for this historic property. Anyone wishing to bid must be required to show proof of reserve funds, a solid business plan to support the future of this community, agree to in writing to preserve all buildings, and as Miracle Valley Oasis Center have recently been asked of your county attorney, should we win, take on all necessary asbestos abatement according to EPA standards, which will likely be in excess of $1 million, and we are happy to do that. Please act in the best interest of the property in this community. Protect this property's future and to ensure that it goes into the hands of new owners ready to create a positive season responsibly for us all. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Allison Morse, and she's joining us on Teams.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning. I'm Allison Morse from Portal, and I thank you for this opportunity to speak today. I am deeply concerned about the incompetence in our elections department. Mr. Stevens, acting as interim elections director, blatantly misinformed citizens of the Save Our Water group who were exercising their right to petition. Rather than consult with a knowledgeable source, such as the Secretary of State's office, Mr. Stevens chose to go it on his own, ignoring Arizona state laws governing petitions. According to ARS 19-121B, it is not okay to submit two differently worded petitions at two different times. This resulted in yet another successful lawsuit against the county and exposing once again the rogue, unlawful behavior of our county officials. It is the 8th elections-related lawsuit to be filed against our county in about the same number of months. Our current elections director, Varble was hired by Stevens and rewarded generously with a $95,000 a year starting salary, $4,000 more than was advertised for the position. Apparently, though, he too was unaware of basic state laws governing petitions. This is the man whose elections-related experience for the past 20 years consisted of short-term jobs for 4 different counties in 3 different states, working at each job for less than 2 years. And I might add, the same man who did not want Cochise County to contact his former employers for that same period. Mr. Bartlesmeyer attended 2 universities over the course of 8 years and never graduated. Yet, somehow, he was chosen over 2 other well-qualified candidates, one with a master's degree in education and the other with a doctorate degree in law. A bachelor's degree is a common minimum requirement for the position of elections directors according to currently posted job listings. In Pinal County, for example, it is not only a requirement for their elections director, but also for their deputy elections director. This is the case for Maricopa County as well. This pattern of behavior, of ignoring proper procedures and state laws, is unacceptable. It erodes trust and confidence in our elections and should not be tolerated. The citizens of Cochise County deserve better. We expect those working in all levels of county government to be educated, to know the rules, understand the law, and abide by both. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. I need to make an announcement. Both of the exit doors in the rear have people in front of them, either standing or sitting. If you could move away from the exit doors. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, so the next speaker for Call to the Public is Frances Alvarez, and she is here with us.
Good morning. I'm Frances Alvarez from Hereford, Miracle Valley, and I'm here to say no to any and all demolition of the facilities at Miracle Valley Bible College. I also want to steer up once again a vision. Without a vision, the people perish, and hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life. And when this land was given, that's exactly what it was land. But a man and a people had a vision. They had hope. And that's what I hope to steer up in each and every one today. And that land became purpose. It became a dairy. It became a school. It became a single airplane strip. It became a record press, a printing shop, a mechanic shop. I could go on and on. Orchards, everything to help the community, to help a people. It became a place, a beacon of hope, a beacon of light. And so I'm going to refer to it as a lighthouse today. Some who live around us say, tear that lighthouse down. You know, the big ships, they don't sail this way anymore. In other words, it serves no purpose anymore. There's no use it standing around. But my mind goes back to many stormy nights in people's lives when people found hope, they found faith, they found health, they found deliverance, they found purpose, and still do today when they see that old lighthouse standing there. And so no matter their size or shape, lighthouses have served an important role in keeping ships and sailors safe from harm. Their shining lights have served as important navigational aids for thousands of years and have prevented countless shipwrecks by warning unsuspecting vessels away from unseen dangers. Although they are now considered old-fashioned and obsolete, lighthouses continue to serve as symbols of hope to this day, and so does Miracle Valley Bible College. There are those that are willing to pick up the torch and raise it and bring that light and that life once again. I know the match has been struck many times, different ones have been in there, and it's brought a spark. But I believe we strike it enough time, it will light once again. Jesus said, have faith. According to your faith, so be it unto you. And today I say, let us have faith. Thank you.
All right, our next speaker is Juan Quan. He is on Teams. Juan, are you there?
Hi.
Hey, there you go.
Good morning.
We hear you.
Yes, thank you. Mrs. Judd, Mr. Crosby, and Mrs. English. I'm glad to be here with you once again. I only simply want to say that today you've heard from citizens on both sides discontented with our election processes, perhaps even discontented with the decisions that are made and the decision makers. I want to encourage you to take a hard look at the future of our county and to begin to make the right decision. We have attempted to steer back from the brink, a very bad course that was set decades ago in the approval of the mail-in ballots, mail-in elections, the permanent early voting list. We have seen the introduction of the voting machine 2 decades ago through the state. It is through no fault of ours, except that we were derelict in our responsibilities to oversee a government that was unwise, had made unwise decisions at the state level. I'm here to beseech you, our 3 Board of Supervisors, to put a halt to the slide that we have towards tyranny, towards the oppression of our voices, our votes. And I stand with all citizens in Cochise County who want credible elections, elections that we can trust. The only way that we can get there is, number 1, to get rid of all mail-in ballots, to require voting in person, to count the votes by hand at the precinct level, where neighbors see neighbors, and we can have transparency and oversight, to go back to that low-tech way that everyone understands and no one should object to, except for the minor complaints that it may take too long, it may cost too much, it may be inaccurate. And to those things we can address, and all of those things can be done away with. There should be no obstacle to the simple process by which we vote and count them and have no interference and can have proper oversight. So to any item that you are voting on today that further the use of the machines, that allows for unaccounted for ballots to be mailed in, I would ask for each and every one of you.
Your time is up. Your time is up.
Thank
you. We're going to take a short pause to bring in some chairs. Is that okay?
Well, Madam Chair, I've asked facilities to bring them, and I haven't heard back yet.
Okay.
I can leave and go find someone if you
If
prefer.
they do come, we will pause the meeting at that point. Okay. So just be prepared. So next speaker is John Dorsey, and he is in person, I believe. John Dorsey, are you here?
Can everyone hear me? I'm on Teams.
He's on Teams. Yes, go ahead.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is John Dorsey, and I live in Amarillo, Texas. I'm calling in today to voice my opposition to the demolition of the Miracle Valley Bible College buildings, which of course includes the tabernacle. I did speak in person at the meeting on April 25th and called in and spoke at the meeting on May the 9th. Just for a brief recap, my father worked for Brother Allen from 1967 until 1970 in the Pool of Bethesda, and my family and I, along with Marvin Richardson, were the first to try and restore Miracle Valley from October of 96 until November of 97, after the Latin American Assemblies of God left in 1995. My parents, they were the associate pastors, and Marvin was the head pastor. I was the church pianist and the landscaper. After we had to leave, my family and I lived in Huachuca City for 4 months due to the fact that we unfortunately weren't able to come up with the money due to acquire the land. My dad hoped that we would be able to go back out there to try and acquire Miracle Valley. My great uncle and aunt, Elmer and Doris Chambliss, along with their daughter Faith, lived and worked out at Miracle Valley. My father met them in his time out there, and they became friends. My aunt and uncle would later introduce my father to my maternal grandparents in 1976, who founded and pastored an Assemblies of God church here in Amarillo for 27 years. It was there that he met my mother and got married, and the rest is history. I was 15 when we first moved onto the land, and some of the elders of the church, which included my father, Ray Atchison, Ray Kimmery, and Marvin, would meet in the boardroom of the administration building. They would let me join them. I had been raised up in the church by parents who were evangelists and grandparents who were pastors, but it was there that I had heard subjects about the Word of God that I had not before. We only lived on the property for 13 months, but it is still and will always be a very important part of my life. By the grace of Almighty God, Miracle Valley will be restored, and the latter will be greater than the former for the glory of God. God has the last say in regards to the land, no matter what men may say or do. Proverbs 19:21 states that there are many devices in a man's heart, nevertheless it is the counsel of the Lord that shall stand. And I thank you very much for your time today, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sandy Troll, and she's in person.
Hello, Sandy Truel from Sierra Vista. The jail district tax election was unlawful and currently has a lawsuit filed against it. You ignored the Arizona Constitution, ART 4, Part 1, Section 1. You did not receive approval from the citizens to conduct an all-mail-in election. The results are completely uncertifiable due to no chain of custody or voter ID. Proposition 132 was skirted around when you all know that was intended to prevent new taxes on the citizens without a 60% yes vote to start charging citizens more of their hard-earned dollars for the next 25 years. Voters were disenfranchised and voting was intentionally suppressed by conducting an all-mail-in election. Votes were counted by persons not appointed by the Board of Supervisors and with machines which have never been approved for use by the citizens and are uncertifiable results from tabulators that can be manipulated. People were threatened with increased property taxes if they didn't vote for this tax. That is coercion. And I have a quote, "Totalitarianism is never content to rule by external means, namely through the state and a machinery of violence. Thanks to its peculiar ideology and the role assigned to it in this apparatus of coercion, totalitarianism has discovered a means of dominating and terrorizing human beings from within." Thank you.
Thank you. We will just take a moment to get all the chairs set up. And
There's plenty of room in the front, fellas.
just not in front of the doors. Thank you.
Walkway.
There's two seats right up here, space for two right in here.
And they took them through.
Call this meeting back to order. Thank you for tolerating us while we provided some seating. I hope you're more comfortable. All right, our next speaker is Ron Moen, and he is in person. You. Yes.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Ron Moen. I live in Hereford, Arizona. Over the past several months, I have been determined, or it has been determined, that Miracle Valley is historic and has impactful excellence both in property and personal history. While it appears that some may think, due to erroneous advice, that state statute, that is 41-862, has no merit, or by the stroke of their hand, it can be rendered moot. This, I believe, is wrong. It is my opinion that without our due diligence in observance of the law, that you have the responsibility, while this property is in your hands, I believe you must protect it from harm. Not only from the ravages of the environment, but you have the responsibility to protect it from the hands of those who may not act in the best interest of not only the property itself, but in the interests of the majority of this great state and the best interests of Cochise County. How do we accomplish this great feat? By the diligent adherence to thorough vetting of all who apply to bid at auction. First, does this potential buyer represent the majority view? Second, does this potential buyer have a clear business model that brings jobs, families, and proper infrastructure of support? Third, do they have sound financial ability to move ahead? Fourth, does their financial markers line up with the needs of this county and state? It is our understanding that the asbestos abatement, asbestos abatement is required and will cost in excess of $1 million to accomplish. The county has deemed this cost to be borne by the potential purchasers. This vital requirement needs to be toughly vetted by your supervision. We, the people of the county, are interested in this and desire all requirements be met. We are of the understanding that there is at least one organization already fitting these aforementioned requirements and is most easily vetted. You supervisors have the task of wading through the rules and regulations. You must listen to interpretations, even if they should be in error. Then decide what is in the best interest of Cochise County citizens. We citizens want you to know that we are watching, not for errors, but to allow you to see our support. We support you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Johnny Lee Wilson, Sr. And he is in person. There he is.
Johnny Lee Wilson, Sr. I live in Sierra Vista. You might not notice it looking at me now, but I'm dying. Now that I got your attention, I'm not dying physically. Our country's dying. Our country was founded on God. We're dying a spiritual death. I want to thank Tom Crosby for standing up last week and supporting the Constitution. That's what everybody's supposed to be doing. If you don't want to support our Constitution, there's like 194 other countries you can move to. The thing that I thought you should have done, this is my opinion, you should have tabled the meeting, not had a vote, and say, is Tom right? Or is Tom just making up crap or what? There's some people out there that think he makes up everything. He's one of the most honest guys that I know. So what I'm asking is look inside yourself and see, did I do right by the citizens? And you want to do the mail-in stuff, how accurate is that? How honest is it? We got like 126,000 people live in our county, like 86,000 are registered to vote, sent out 75,000 votes, 50,000 never even came back. So that means there's 50,000 people here that don't give a crap what you do or what we do or how we live. And I think you should consider undoing what you done. I know it's hard to go back and it's hard to admit fault, but do you know the Constitution? If not, I would say maybe you should read it. I don't know it that well. You got people sitting over here that can help you. I'm sure they probably know something about the Constitution. But just to pass something like that, I mean, that was, to me, that was depressing. That made me feel like I was dying, made me feel like our country's dying, our county's dying. I mean, it's time to stand up. If you don't like your job, I don't know. There could be an opening somewhere for somebody or something. Can't go to Walmart. Walmart's not hiring. They put a freeze on hiring right now. So, and I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I mean, it's not my intent to do that, but I am getting so angry. I don't know what to say. I'm trying to control my anger, trying to control my speech. I drove truck for 40 years, so I got a pretty bad vocabulary. I can say a lot of things. And I just, you know, I love my country. I love our state. And the $40 million, guess what? Katie Hobbs just gave you $40 million the other day. She snuck down here at the base and didn't tell nobody. So use that for your jail. We're not against the jail. We support the jail 100%, but we want to do it legally. So thank you.
Our next speaker is Henry Conroy.
I'm Henry Conroy, and I'm also from Sierra Vista. The citizens of Cochise County were never asked to approve an all-mail-in ballot, and most of us would have voted no had you asked us. We do not want mail-in ballots because of the potential fraud and the possibility of problems with signature verification and with the chain of custody. You ignored multiple county statutes and Arizona Constitution articles making this election for that jail district illegal. I'm surprised that you're pushing such a socialist agenda by attempting to make mail-in ballots the future for us. So you need to immediately do away with most mail-in ballots and also the voting machines and return to paper ballots. I'm very disappointed in your voting records, and I do not understand exactly how you can vote against the will of your constituents, especially you, Ms. Judd. I've kind of looked at voting, and I can't understand how you get around to voting the way you do. I can only see several reasons why you might vote that way. Number one, you may have been coerced or browbeaten by somebody else, and you were acting as a puppet in your vote. You could have been blackmailed, or you could have been bribed by someone to vote the way you do. Or you could be very ignorant in the law itself or uneducated about the issues. Or you could truly believe in socialism and you're pushing this agenda on our county through your voting. Your reputation and your impact on the county will be judged by those who come after. And I would ask you to think about what will your children and grandchildren think of you and the way you've been voting. Thank you.
Speaker is Yvonne Mayer.
Good morning. I'm Yvonne Mayer. I live in Hereford, and I'm going to go off the reservation here a little bit and not talk about voting at this particular time, but I will be back today. I am speaking for the Cochise County Humane Society and other animal welfare groups within the county. It's been almost 5 years since the Huachuca Animal Shelter was closed in December of 2018. Animals were and are still being transported from that area to other already crowded shelters. You have over $2 million in funding in place for the new county animal shelter. And we're told that it will be maybe another 2 years before it can be built out and operational. There's now on the market an operating kennel for sale by a private entity in Whetstone. The asking price is approximately $514,000. The property sits on 16 acres. There are 50 large indoor-outdoor dog runs, a cat area, and room for expansion. There are other outbuildings and a residence on the site. Here is an opportunity to buy a ready-made operating shelter for just over $500,000. Remember, the $514 is the asking price. Maybe you can negotiate. Do that instead of rehabbing an old building for several million and wasting more time. The funding you have is from taxpayer dollars. Going ahead with the current plans for the rehabbed facility on Terrellville Road is a waste of time and our money. It doesn't take much analysis to determine the existing ready-made facility is the better deal and taxpayer dollars well spent. What it takes is action. Action. Yours. Thank you.
Next speaker is Paul Varble.
Good morning, Patriot. Two tyrants. This is not about the sheriff's office. It's about taxation without representation. Kind of like the Boston Tea Party. We the people do not approve of and have never approved of and will never approve of the use of all mail-in elections or machines for any election in Cochise County or the USA. Any law that violates constitutional law is null and void as if it had never happened in the first place and not to be complied with. You became criminals when you ignored Arizona Constitution, Article 4, Part 1, Section 1, Subparagraph 8. You must immediately deem the jail district null and void. Since you did not get an approval from we the people for an all mail-in election, which is totally uncertifiable because of no chain of custody or identity, you must immediately deem the jail district null and void. You did not apply the new constitutional amendment passed by we the people in November of 22, requiring a 60% supermajority for tax increase. So you must immediately deem the jail district election not passed and the jail district null and void. And Peggy Judd, you represent our voice, we the people, not your voice or opinions, our voice. You work for us, we don't work for you. And when we the people speak, you listen and don't go against our demands or wishes. You have betrayed us, and you can redeem yourself by retracting your vote. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Okay, next speaker is Jean Gifrida. That's a hard name. Jean Gifrida. Are you online, Jean? Hey, I don't hear her. She may not have managed to wait this long. All right, that's the last speaker we have for call to the public. And we will move on.
Madam Chair, one
Yes.
moment.
We have something else. That's okay. All right.
I applied for.
Inca McCord, are you there? Okay, coming up.
Hello, I'm Inca McCord from Stump Canyon, Hereford, Arizona. And I see corruption at every level of our government, sadly. And I, perhaps 3 years ago, joined up with some Republicans here in Cochise County just to get involved and learn what's going on. And since that period of time, I have learned about the massive corruption in this little old county in Arizona where I live. It's been pretty heartbreaking. This whole jail thing seems to me that some sort of cost effectiveness study could have been made to see if within our current budget we could have repaired a 40-year-old jail rather than building what I think I remember as an $8 million structure. I could be wrong. It just sounds very bizarre to me. I also understood this AMA situation that has been introduced in the Douglas and Bisbee area. And my comment to that is they're going to come for your guns eventually, but evidently they're coming for your water first. So look out for that. Machines, I've spoken about this before, the machines are very vulnerable and perhaps already programmed to allow people to modify the software so that you can cheat. Because I was a 30-year programmer, I know how easy it is to introduce problems or ask for input, and I don't trust the machines 100%. So there's another avenue for corruption that we have, perhaps as Cochise County, we have allowed. Let's see what else I've got. I have a whole list of things, but I don't really have enough time to address them. But my point is, Cochise County, in my mind, is quite corrupt. Those are just a few examples, and I'm ashamed of this county, and I would like to see perhaps some changes in the right direction so we, the people, as the residents of Cochise County, can love our county again.
Thank you. Nancy Olmstead is our last speaker. And you have one? Can you come up here to the clerk with that?
Yes, this is Lee Chaplin. I've been approved to speak.
She'll explain it. Sorry, Nancy, go ahead.
No problem. My name is Nancy Olmstead. I live in Whetstone, and I thank you for this opportunity. Well, I'm here again today to speak about all-male elections. For the all-male election for the jail tax, a random collection of registered voters were labeled as inactive simply because their mail with pieces were returned. The county relied on ARS 16-193 to, quote, include only active registered voters. However, nowhere in ARS 16-193 does the Arizona law define how a registered voter becomes inactive. So it's simply, well, we'll just do it this way approach, which strips registered voters of their right to vote. Some might say, oh, don't make such a big deal of it, besides voting by mail is so convenient. But it is a big deal. It's our right to vote. It's our voice in this community. Cochise County 2023 registered voter roll originally had 87,000 voter records. Using, well, we'll just do it this way approach, the county labeled between 10 to 11,000 registered voters as inactive. I did a spreadsheet analysis of the voter roll to discover that of those, 4,962 registered voters had either voted in the primary or general election in 2020 or the primary or general election in 2022. I would imagine that those voters consider themselves active voters because they actively voted. Here is a pie chart that represents what I am saying. The 48% of inactive voters on this pie chart in red were the registered voters who were active voters stripped of their right to vote in the jail tax election. The process is flawed. All mail elections stripped active participating voters of their right to vote. Stop relying on all mail elections because they're convenient. Fix them. You have an opportunity today to be good representatives of the people, to restore our confidence in free and fair elections. You have a choice. Make it. Fix our elections. Stop relying on a flawed election process simply because it's convenient. Stop mail elections.
Our next item on the agenda today is a presentation by the Arizona Auditor General's Office.
Madam Chair,
Oh, yes.
we have one more call to the public. Mr. Pugh.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. We don't have the paperwork, but you have it. Okay.
What name did you call again?
It's okay, Kim. Thank you.
Hello.
There's someone online. We have someone in person speaking right now. Kim Depew.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've searched earnestly for how and when we greenlighted all mail balloting in Cochise County. It appears this board never did it. Mail-in only elections started like someone thought it was a good idea about 15 years ago around here. Someone thought it would be acceptable to maneuver the Board of Supervisors into the first countywide election by mail only for this jail district. 50,000 ballots went into the circular file. Imagine that. Ballots are now junk mail. State law made mail-in voting possible in '91. Legal does not make it a good idea. Secure chain of custody for ballots mailed is impossible. I look at a ballot like I do the U.S. flag. They just don't belong in the trash. I think the county should support the special districts with election services. I do not think you should encourage the districts by example to make their elections mail-in only ballots. One day, one vote, hand count. This should be easy for these small elections. Restore citizen involvement. Restore trust by leadership. Do not vote to move these junk mail elections forward. And to save time, I will comment on item 17. Fancy paper will be treated with the same disrespect if you do not fix elections. Thank you.
Thank you. Just checking. That's the last one. Last one? Okay. Thank you. So now we will have a presentation by the Arizona Auditor General's Office of the fiscal year 2021-22 audit results and findings. And we have with us Nicole Bartlett, Audit Manager, and Renee Carrasco, Senior Financial Advisor. Thank you.
Welcome to Cochise County.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Judd, Vice Chairman Crosby, Board Member English, and County Administrator Carrasco, public and county employees. As I said, I'm Nicole Bartlett, Financial Audit Manager of the Auditor General's Office. Thank you for inviting us to join your regular meeting today and to present our results for the audit of Cochise County. Joining me later on will be Renee Carrasco. Before we discuss the county's audits, I think it's helpful to provide a little background on the Arizona Auditor General. The office is a legislative agency made up of nonpartisan staff. The office, although we are accountable to all 90 legislative members, we report directly to the Joint Legislative Audit Committee, which is made up of a bipartisan group of 10 members, 5 appointed by the Senate President and 5 appointed by the Speaker of the House. We're an independent source of impartial information concerning the state and our local government entities and programs. We also provide specific recommendations to improve the operations and programs of states and local governments, including Cochise County. We're well-versed in government auditing standards, and these standards were created by the United States Comptroller General and outlined several requirements for things like audit reports, professional qualifications for auditors, auditor ethics, independence, objectivity, professional judgment, our audit evidence, and our office's quality controls. All auditors of federal, state, and local governments use these same standards. So why are we here? Well, our presentation today is in accordance with Arizona Revised Statutes 11661D, which directs the county board to have its auditors present the audit results and any findings to the board within 90 days of the audit's completion. This is a great opportunity for us as your auditors to be in front of you to provide information about our work and to answer any questions you might have. So today we'll be discussing our work on 3 required annual audit reports. The county's annual financial report, report on internal control and compliance, and the federal single audit report. As we have done in the past, when our annual reports were completed, we sent each of you a link on these reports in an email dated June 21st, 2023. And the financial report, report on internal control, and the single audit were issued together. The annual financial report presents the county's annual financial statements and our opinion as to whether the county's financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects with conformity with U.S. generally accepted accounting principles. It is wonderful for me to report that for fiscal year 22, we reported an unmodified or clean opinion for the county's financial statements, and they're considered reliable. The report on internal control and compliance is included in our single audit report, and it's where we report any financial recommendations on that audit. We reported 3 findings that we found during our financial audit that Renee will discuss later. Finally, our federal single audit report includes our assessment of the county's compliance with federal program requirements over each federal program we are required to audit. Our report on internal control and with federal programs and the county's schedule of federal expenditures and our opinion on it. We reported 1 single audit finding, which Renee will also discuss later. And because we know that these reports are detailed and complex, we also prepare a 2-page report highlights, which summarizes the largest primary revenue sources for the county and how the county used these monies over the last 10 years. It also provides brief information about our key findings and recommendations and links to our current and prior year reports. So I would like to take the opportunity to present to you some key financial information over the last 5 years. So from this graph, you can see the primary sources of revenue over the last 5 fiscal years are federal and state grants, county property taxes, shared state sales taxes, and county sales taxes. The county revenues for property and sales taxes and state shared sales taxes have been relatively consistent over the last 5 years. However, federal and state grants increased over the last 3 years because of COVID-19 monies being provided to the county from the federal government. Our next slide shows the primary expenses over the last 5 fiscal years. The county has 4 primary expense categories: general government, public safety, highways and streets, and health and welfare. I do want to note that there was a large increase in fiscal year 2021 general government and public safety expenses compared to the prior fiscal year, primarily due to increases in employee salaries and employer-related expenses and an overall pension expense. So that's that spike that you see there. And then on the next slide, this shows the highlights of the 5-year trend of the county's revenues and expenses. The county's revenues have exceeded its expenses since fiscal year 2019. And as you can see with the black line, the county's net position has continued to increase since fiscal year 2018. Most importantly, the county's overall net position increased by $11.7 million from fiscal year 2021 to fiscal year 2022 because revenues exceeded expenses. Total net position for the county is $135 million at the end of June 30th, 2022. It is important to note that not all of the net position balance is spendable because $127 million of this balance is invested in capital assets. And then finally, I'd like to highlight the county's federal expenditures that are presented in our single audit report. Although the county received grants from 14 federal agencies during fiscal year 22, you can see from the bar chart 50% of its federal revenues were from the U.S. Department of Treasury grants, specifically the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds, and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development grants, specifically the Section 8 Housing Choice Vouchers. I will now turn it over to Renee, who's going to be discussing the 3 financial findings and the 1 federal finding and the recommendations we reported.
Good morning, Cochise County Board of Supervisors. My name is Renee Carrasco. I am the Financial Audit Senior for the FY22 Cochise County Single Audit and Financial Audit. As previously noted, the report on internal control and compliance is where you'll find our financial audit findings along with the county's responses to them. For the county, we reported 3 financial statement findings in this report. The first financial statement finding identified a deficiency in the county's payroll process. County management knowingly allowed 3 employees the ability to change their own pay rates without an independent review and approval and without monitoring their payroll processing activities to ensure that only authorized pay rate changes are made. We reviewed the pay rate changes these 3 employees made during the year and noted no fraud and no unauthorized pay rate changes. We recommend that the county should allocate resources appropriately to develop and implement written policies and procedures that eliminate an employee's ability to change their own pay rates without an independent review and approval, require IT to continually monitor employees' payroll processing activities, especially when incompatible role assignments or abilities of the system cannot be avoided to help reduce the risk of fraud and potential misuse of public monies. A similar finding was initially reported in fiscal year 2019. I will like to note that the county has improved each year on this deficiency. The county reported that if it concurs with the finding and corrected the deficiency by July 1st, 2022. Alrighty. The second financial statement finding identified deficiencies in the county's controls over its IT systems and data. Our report identifies recommendations to develop comprehensive written IT policies and procedures over restricting access to its IT systems. A similar finding has been reported since fiscal year 2017, and the county has made progress on implementing several recommendations since. The county reported that it concurs with the finding and anticipates to fully correct the deficiencies by June 30, 2023. The third and final financial statement finding identified a deficiency in the county's financial statement preparation process, which delayed the issuance of the county's financial statements and expenditure limitation report past the required deadline of March 31st, 2023. The county experienced significant delays at the beginning of the audit due to turnover in the position responsible for compiling the financial statements, and therefore decided to outsource the preparation with financial statements to a third party during the audit. Further, the county had not developed written policies and procedures for the finance department to reconcile the financial statements to the underlying accounting records to ensure they were accurate and adequately supported before providing the financial statements for audit, resulting in additional delays. We recommend, as a result, the county's finance department provided key information such as financial statements, associated note disclosures, and supporting schedules to auditors up to 3 months past agreed upon deadlines. We recommend the county provide key financial information to auditors by agreed upon deadlines established at the beginning of the audit, to develop and implement written policies and procedures requiring the finance department to reconcile the county's financial statements to the underlying records to ensure they are accurate and properly supported for providing the statements for audit. The county reported that it concurs with the finding and corrected deficiency on June 23rd, 2023. And this is the federal compliance finding we have. As previously noted, the single audit report is where you'll find our federal compliance audit findings along with the county's responses to them. For the county, it reported one federal compliance finding related to the timeliness of the audit. We reported that the county did not submit its June 30, 2022 single audit report to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse until June 2023, which was nearly 3 months later than required. We recommend that the Finance Department should approve its financial reporting process so it can submit the county's future single audit reports on or before the federally required submission deadline, which is no later than 9 months after fiscal year end or by March 31st of the subsequent year. The county reported that it concurs with the finding and plans to correct the deficiencies by March 31st, 2024. This completes our presentation of the county's fiscal year 2022 audit reports, including the 4 reported findings. Are there any questions that either of us can answer for you concerning the county's audits?
Well, I just want to say I don't like hearing that we were lax in one way or another. However, I did like to hear that you were able to find out that there really wasn't any problem and gave us ideas for moving forward. I almost feel like I need a second opinion. So may I refer just quickly to my county administrator and see if he would like to say something about this audit?
Sure.
I'd like to make a statement of audits in general. I think that we're never afraid of an audit. And we're always hoping that if you uncover any process that can be made better, that you will alert us to that. So I think that, you know, when we go through these, the attitude always has to be, how do we improve ourselves? And the hope always is that you never find any fraud. And we've never had that. So I think that that's great that the state audits and that you take that seriously, that you watch over all the agencies, processes, as well as policies. So
thank you.
Just thank you for that.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for me also.
Likewise, I am in favor of audits.
Happy to hear.
Mr. Kowalska, do you have anything that we could add?
Yes, and I know we always have a good relationship with the Auditor General, and the points that were brought up, you know, which I appreciate, and then the original one that was brought up around the 3 individuals that are able to do the payroll changes. Those changes were already made and corrected. It was just, I think the report ended in June 30th, and the correction was made in July. So it didn't happen to happen in that, or the correction wasn't made in the fiscal year that you're auditing currently. And the additional things about with the ITs, we have made a lot of changes and security measures adding to that. So, and I know on the county employee side, people don't like to get those emails about please fill out these forms to or who has access to certain areas and who has certain permissions. It causes a lot of problems, but we have implemented that as well. So I think you'll see the next audit report next year will have that elimination. Also, with working with the Auditor Generals, and I just want to make it clear, I know the finding was that it was 3 months later, but it's not that we didn't return your phone calls for 3 months. We were constantly in communication and getting more and more documentation as you guys inquire. So we always welcome being audited, because I think that's a way to be clear about what the county is doing and the money's coming in and out of the county. So we appreciate it, and even though we get repeated requests for more and more documentations, we do provide all those documentations. It does take some time, and I know there was some turnover in the finance department, and I don't see those problems happening in the next fiscal year.
It's almost like you all could live here with us. Yeah. So much information. Like, why don't you take a seat, you know?
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, I would comment that
Yes, we have one more comment.
it's like I said, I'm in favor of the audits, and even if some information was late or there was nobody to send it to, the good news is there was not a whole big pile of money missing when you completed your audit, and that's what our citizens should know.
Great. I want to thank the chairman and the board for allowing us to present our audit results. And we have always had a professional working relationship, and we're actually here today to start also this afternoon the 23 audit. So, yeah. So moving right into the next year. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. So that concludes our presentation. We will begin with consent agenda items number 1 through 9.
Madam Chair, I move we approve consent agenda items 1 through 4 and 7 through 9 and break out items 5 and 6.
Really?
Yeah.
Move those out.
Absolutely. By popular demand.
Okay, I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second for items 1 through 4 and 7 through 9 on the consent agenda, and I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye and the motion carries. We'll continue with item number 5 and 6, and then if I can make a change, and we will move up item number 17 following item number 6. And then proceed with the agenda as outlined. So item number 5. Well, 11 will come in the proper order. 17 is going to be moved from the end to right after item number 6. So we're going to...
Item number 11 has already been approved, hasn't it?
No, just 9.
Oh, no. That's a public hearing.
Just through 9.
Okay.
We're ready. We're going to do item number 5 now, if we could have a motion.
Madam Chair, I move we approve intergovernmental agreement for election supplies and services between Cochise County and San Pedro Valley Hospital District for November 7th, 2023.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have a presentation on this item? Bob Bartlesmeyer, Elections Director. Having it been on the, there you are. Okay.
Mr. Bartlesmeyer, can you please come to the microphone? Sorry for the record.
Come on forward.
Board of Supervisors, I believe you have the attachment that has been submitted to you with the signatures from both districts to hold a mail ballot election in November 7th.
I just have a quick question just to clarify. So, and I know this, I've actually spoken to the districts. They choose, this is a board, a hospital board, and if might as well talk about 6, the school board.
Correct.
And they choose what kind of elections
Correct.
they want. And of course they have a time frame, but all they have asked is our assistance, and they pay for the election.
Correct.
So 100%. So it is their prerogative to choose.
And they chose the all mail ballot.
I recognize that. So I just want to thank you for coming up. If you want to just stay so you can just say a little bit after the next one. Is there any comments on behalf of the board, other board members?
Why was it pulled? I mean, what was the point?
Well, I'll tell you.
I'll tell you why it was.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
The subject of many of today's speakers was the all mail-in ballots, and this is 2 more elections that are going to be all mail-in ballots. So I want to revert to speaking about our February 23rd, 2023 meeting, and it says Crosby makes the following suggestion: should we instruct our county recorder to move forward with fixing the mail-in ballot and voter ID problems addressed by Mr. LaChance today within the parameters of the law. And I further said, it sounds like we do have consensus on that. I'm not going to repeat what I just read. Judd interjects, yes, and I am adding chain of custody to that proposal. Judd then lists other issues she believes are crucial for election integrity. This problem, she says, can be alleviated or dealt with entirely by precinct or regional election voting centers as a replacement to countywide election centers. We were talking about a countywide election at that time. Crosby asks what election integrity measures Judd would be willing to support in advance of the next May election, which is now passed. Judd offers the reply, the board cannot take any action for the next election with regard to voting machines as per state legislature. The next election is all mail-in ballots, which is now passed, and then admits she does not why, that's Ms. Judd, and emphasizes the need to reach out for legal advice on the subject. After Crosby asks when a work session should be set up to address what election integrity reform should be pursued after the May election, Judd suggests that there is a pressing need to reach out for legal advice as to when such a session can be set up. So there has been a pressing need for election integrity reforms, according to Ms. Judd, from February to the current time.
Okay, thank you for that. Good reminders. So I remember a specific direction at the work session, as the said work section, which we held, and we had a lot of input, and that was to bring specific agenda items forward. That was by our former chairman, bring specific agenda items forward that we wanted to address. And that so far hasn't been done in a regular meeting. So that's all to answer that. But this, I have a, it's really for item number 6. I maybe I'll save my story for item number 6. But this is simply a special district holding an election within their district. So the number of voters in Wilcox that are in the Wilcox School District are under that board. They chose, well, let's do Benson. Sorry, this is Benson. Benson elected a board for the San Pedro Valley Benson Hospital. They elected a board. The board made this decision. I didn't make the decision unilaterally because apparently I've spoken in the past. This board did not make the decision. That board, the San Pedro, even if you shake your head, that board, the San Pedro Valley Hospital Board, if you have an issue with them using all mail-in ballots, you need to go to them and say, you should not use all mail-in ballots, board. So anyway, I have a story for the next item. If you want to hold on, does anyone else need to say anything on item number 5?
Yeah, the issue here is an intergovernmental agreement between the county and those special districts.
Exactly. And that's because we provide services to them to run their election because they don't have the technology or the people to run an election in their board, in their district.
Can you show me in the law where it says the county is obligated to provide these election supplies and services?
May I refer to our attorney?
I do not have the specific statute in front of me, but counties are allowed to run these elections for the special districts.
I'm sorry, did you say allowed or required?
Counties are allowed to run these elections. I don't have the specific statute in front of me. And these are elections that we've run for several years in the past. They are under special districts, which allow them to have all mail elections, and that's what their boards have chose to do. We simply provide the services.
And they have also chosen to, so since we aren't required to provide that service, they've chosen to,
where does it say
can I verify? Since they aren't required to use the county to run their election. They're not required, but we are available to them and they have chosen to use the county to help them, right?
That is correct.
We're not
we are
forcing them.
Available to them as the resource, and they have chosen this is the election that they're going to run.
Okay. I don't know what else can be said, but I don't even, do we have people speaking on this? Yes, we do. Say what you would like to say. Item number 5, speaking, Ronald Brooks. You may sit down again. Thank you.
Hello? Hello, Board of Supervisors, Judd, English, and Crosby. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here. I didn't totally understand this issue. I do now. This is not required for us to do. And we have a serious question we have to deal with ourselves. Do we want to have machines in our elections? Do we want to have all mail-in? Do we want to support another organization that wants to do so? I don't believe we need to do that. We do not have to give them that support because, I mean, this is not going to be friendly to you folks, but you know, I think it's the people's house here. This is the people in this county that have their will that they bring to you that they want you to serve. And when I see it as God's house here, and to bring in machines or early mail-in ballots, which opens way up to fraud and corruption. I've seen this. I'm very, very upset about what's going on here in our country and even in this county. And I think that this mail-in ballots and machines are just a way of giving Satan a way to take our voice away. Our people, we're dying here. We are losing our country. We're losing our state. Is somebody going to stand up? I would just say on this issue here, I would just deny them and say, look, you're going to have to find another way to do this because we do not make a decision right or wrong for mail-in ballots right now. We're making that decision ourselves. So that would be my recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Radford Hyde. Radford Hyde? I don't hear him. Okay, the next speaker on Teams, Lee R. Chadbourne.
Can you
Lee?
can
Speak
you
up a
hear
little
me
bit.
now?
We can hear
Yes,
you.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm a citizen. I'm a taxpayer of this county, and I'm from Sierra Vista. And if the county is going to be involved in these elections, they should be done according to the Constitution and not because they just want to have election their own way. We're going down the wrong path here. And you have not received approval from the citizens of this county to provide such an election to both of these entities. It's just astounding. We do not consent to the use of mail-in elections or the use of machines to conduct any elections for anybody that just wants to have an election their own way. We, the citizens of Cochise, for which the county government exists and for which we pay, do not consent to the current process that is going on here for these two elections of items 5 and 6, for which for conducting mail-in balloting because of there's a lack of chain of custody and it's illegitimate. It's an illegitimate use of the signature comparison to the identify as a voter. And I'm very unhappy that I was not called for the call to public because I was sent back a flyer that I would be called, and I was not called to the public that has to do a lot with this. So this is pretty much what I have to say. And so I'm not a happy camper here as far as a taxpayer, and I'm sure if you were to go to the whole county, you're going to find that they would rule against you. And that's all I have to say.
So just to clarify for everyone in the room, this is the portion of the agenda specific to item number 5. And if you signed up for item number 5, you will be called, generally a call to the public again, as specifically to item number 5. And my next speaker is Daniel LaChance.
Thank you, Supervisor Judd. We do not approve of the intergovernmental agreement to conduct these elections. We do not approve of the intergovernmental agreement. That's the citizens saying we do not approve of you approving of the intergovernmental agreement to support these elections. So that needs to go back to those boards, and we need to go back to them clearly and tell them we're not going to have all mail-in elections ever again. The citizens of Cochise do not approve of, we've never approved of, and we will not ever approve of again the use of all mail-in elections for any election in Cochise County. That's why we are opposed to this one now. Having not received approval from the citizens to conduct an all mail-in election, at no time did the citizens say it's okay to have all mail-in elections. You didn't come to us. You didn't do the proper procedures that you needed to find out if we ever approved of all mail-in elections. We never approved of them. So since we never approved of them, you must not approve any all mail-in election for this election or any other election. You have never received approval from the citizens to use computerized machines to count these all mail-in elections. we have no trust or confidence in the machines to count or report the election. So you must not approve of this election, of either of these elections. We're talking about 5 right now. We do not consent to the election being conducted in this manner. That's the citizens. That's all of us. We don't consent. We do not consent to the use of mail-in elections or the use of machines to conduct any elections in the future. We, the citizens of Cochise, for which the county government exists, you guys supervise those guys for us. We do not consent to the current process of conducting mail-in balloting because of the lack of chain of custody. Nobody knows who gets ballots, how those ballots are voted, or anything else. So we don't approve of them having those kinds of elections in our county. We also do not approve of the illegitimate use of signature comparison to identify a voter. There's only one way to identify voters, and that's by having people put their identity out and prove it. Signature comparison is baloney. It doesn't work. You might say that somebody has authorized it, but you cannot say that it's legitimate, that you can say that a signature written by somebody, by a machine, by somebody else, is somehow going to be proof of somebody else's identity. That doesn't work.
Our next speaker is Juan Quan, and I have 2 forms for him. So I am going to just call him once. It says he's speaking on Teams. Item number 5. Juan Quan, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, your turn.
Mr. LaChance is right. We have no confidence in the machines or the processes of mail-in ballots, nor the signature verification. The Board of Supervisors needs to make this decision. It cannot be that Mr. Crosby is the only one who would speak out for the citizens of Cochise. Mrs. Judd, you are my Board of Supervisor for the Wilcox area. I'm asking you to do the right thing by not ever using mail-in ballots for any of our elections. It is within your purview to make this decision. You cannot just simply say that your subordinates, your subdivisions that you created, that the board has created, when they come to request your permission to conduct an election that none of us has confidence in. You cannot say that you are simply following in their request. You can make the decision. I'm asking Mrs. English to understand the issue. It is not that hard. We do not have confidence, and neither should you. I'm asking Mrs. Judd that you understand the issues. For whatever reason that you fail to deliver the votes that give us confidence in an election by conducting it in person at the precinct level and hand counted. I'm asking you to make the right decision here to set a precedent going forward that there will never be a mail-in election as long as you are in charge. We have put you in charge. I'm asking you to make the right decisions today. Mrs. English, Mrs. Judd, and I want to thank Tom for have consistently been making the right decisions to vote not to use the machines, to go to hand count, and to eliminate mail-in ballots. Thank you.
Okay, actually I was mistaken. This is Juan Quan Najayan, however you say that. Sorry, I do not know how to pronounce that. And that I believe that's a family member in your home.
Yes. I'm not sure if my sister is here. She might have.
I am here. You missed calling me on the first round, but that's okay. Can I speak now or should I wait?
Yes, this is the time you signed up to speak.
Yes, thank you. I would second what my brother had just said, and Mr. Dan LaChance and a number of other our fellow citizens. I do not want mail-in ballot. I do not want my vote to be stolen by machines can be used to cheat us out of our voice. And I think the time to debate is over because we have invited Miss Judd and Miss English to state the reason, and they never have. What I've heard is Ann English saying to me personally in one of the meetings that I have heard you. I just don't believe you. At this point, we don't even care what you believe in. Let me just remind you that as long as you represent us, draw a salary for representing us, you need to do what we need you to do, the right thing. Get rid of the machines. Let us go back to voting in person at the precinct and how hand counting those votes. If you cannot do that, then we have no choice but to work to remove you, and we can do that. So it sounds to me like the time for talking is almost out. You do what you are hired to do, or you go home and let somebody else step in your place and do the right thing by us, the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Johnny Lee Wilson, Sr.
Johnny D. Wilson, Senior, Sierra Vista, Arizona. Can I do 5 and 6 at the same time?
Yes,
Cut some time.
please.
Okay. I don't think the county should get involved with these two issues with the mail-in ballots. But so many people know that the mail-in ballots aren't right. You know, when you only get just a minority of the people that votes for these things, you know, like 86,000, 50,000 get lost. What's going to happen with these two? And we don't know the board people that elected over there at the hospital or Wilcox. What is their intent? I mean, I don't know. So I think the county should not get involved in these mail-in elections because it's too much trouble. Why can't we go back to precincts where you go there, you open the book, your name's in the book, you show them your ID, chain of custody. They hand you a ballot, you stick it in a box, nobody knows who voted for it. But the way they're doing these things nowadays, for instance, the other day I heard a poll in Texas that 36% of these Hispanics voted for this guy and 32% of evangelicals voted for this guy. How do they know that? It's supposed to be a secret ballot. I mean, so the machines are putting all that stuff out. And then when people say the machines aren't working properly, yeah, they're working properly. They're working exactly how they want them to be. And so I'm tired of our election being stolen.
All right, Henry S. Conroy.
I'm Henry Conroy from Sierra Vista. And again, we are, as citizens, we do not approve the use of mail-in ballots for any election. Now, since this is an intergovernmental agreement, you all can make the decision to write into that intergovernmental agreement that you're going to use paper ballots and you don't have to use machines or you don't have to use mail-ins. You all are writing this intergovernmental agreement, so you can put in what needs to be done in terms of the voting process. I get the feeling that we, the county, are dictating to them that they use mail-in ballots. So if you're writing an intergovernmental agreement, then you put in what goes in that you'll support it. It's no problem. Just write it that way and say we'll support the paper ballots. But you're hearing from many, many people. We are very upset and very discontent with this mail-in ballot thing because there's so much opportunity for fraud. And yes, I was a computer programmer, and yes, I know how machines work, and yes, it's very easy to jerry-rig them. Not a problem at all, and you wouldn't be able to find it. So I don't agree with the machines. I think we need to get rid of those, and I really do not support mail-in ballots for the very same reasons we quoted before. Thank you.
Sandy Troll.
Sandy Truel from Sierra Vista. The citizens of Cochise do not approve of and have never approved of the use of all mail-in elections in any election in Cochise County. Having not received approval from the citizens to conduct an all mail-in election, you must not approve an all mail-in election for this election or any other election. Having never received approval from the citizens to use computerized machines for which we have no trust or confidence to count or report the election, you must not approve this election. We do not consent to this election being conducted in this manner. We do not consent to the use of mail-in elections or the use of machines to conduct any elections in the future. There's no chain of custody and illegitimate use of signature comparison to identify voters. Are we doing 6 too, or was that another? This is 5.
I'm going to just let it be 5 and 6.
So for 5, I really did a lot of research on trying to find out information. There's nothing. There's nothing about the hospital and the election, or I found nothing. So on 6, I was on the Wilcox Unified School District looking at all their board meetings, and it seems to be that this didn't pass in the fall, and they're trying it again with an all mail-in. That's what it seemed to look like. I'm not sure of that because it was hard to find any information, but that's what it looks like. It looks like they're trying to sneak something by. It looks suspicious to me. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my name is Robert McCormick of Sierra Vista, and I could not agree any more than what all the previous people before me said. So to not beat a dead horse, don't agree to it.
Okay. So we have 3 people who have also signed in opposed to item number 5. I just have to say I don't know how to move from here. I don't know if we're going to ruin the deadlines for their elections and cause some problem by possibly tabling these items so we can bring their boards to speak if we have to do that. I don't know. I don't know if I need to see that, but do their boards need to have a chance to input? Because I don't think we can just tell them.
They don't. They've contacted us simply for our help.
Assistant. Yeah.
And today it is, do we want to approve the intergovernmental agreement to help them or not? It's that simple. So I think that's but these aren't people from Wilcox.
I'm not on item 6 yet. Well, there are 2 people from Benson here. 1 person from Benson and 2 from Wilcox that spoke.
They can't consider themselves the majority of the people. I mean,
I know.
come on.
So what I'd like to say, though, is initially when this election was coming up, I approached someone I'm very close to on the Wilcox School Board, my sister, and I said, oh, yeah, you could be part of this new movement to have a in-person, one-day ballot. I approached her, and she went right down to the district office immediately. And she said, look, we can do this. It's time. The county, I want this. My sister, we're working on this. And the superintendent, and then they actually called the chairman in of their board. And they said, we can't, we don't. And maybe this is what you said. We can't do it because when we have an in-person election, we don't have any chance of winning. But I'm not going to vote against them. But I'm not going to vote against them. I don't think that's illegitimate.
County,
oh, now we're on Benson. So now we have to move back to Benson.
Valley. That's not.
All of us wanted to talk about 6. So, but San Pedro Valley, they're happy with what they're doing. I don't know that I can't tell another elected official in this county what to do. The board can't tell another elected official what to do. That is not in our purview.
I'd like to call for the question.
Okay. We have someone who's calling for the question. All those in favor of we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of item number, wait, I didn't ask. Any more comments?
Oh, I can wait till the next.
We called for the question. All those in favor, item number 5, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
The chair votes aye and the motion carries. It's in my district, so that's my explanation. I would like to move on to item number 6. Can we have a break?
Yes.
Okay. I just need a break because I need to make some phone calls. This is personal. Wilcox, I'm going to make some phone calls.
The chair, you can always call for a recess.
I would like to have a recess for 5 minutes. That's all.
To 12:08.
5 minutes. 5 minutes. Recess 5 minutes. Okay. So, just a reminder, I did call to order. A reminder that this is not a gallery. This is not a place where you can come and petition and shout. You did have your time to speak. Thank you. By the way, I'm ready to move on to item number 6. I have checked with my school, so I went to school in Wilcox. I lived there my whole life. So I'd like a motion for item number 6.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the intergovernmental agreement for election supplies and services between Cochise County and Wilcox Unified School District number 13 for November the 7th, 2023.
Second.
Okay, so we do have several people that have signed up to speak for this item. They are all exactly the same except for Mr. Ron Brooks. Apparently, I didn't have him in the number 5 as speaking. So I wonder if everyone else kind of said, kind of in the, you want to speak again? Okay. All right, I'll go through. If you don't want to speak, shout out and say, I don't need to speak again. So our first speaker for item number 6 is Daniel LaChance.
Supervisor Judd, thank you for allowing me to speak again. It's a similar issue where we have the opportunity to tell everybody in Cochise that we're not going to do all mail-in elections. And so we're giving you our direction on this to not approve of the intergovernmental agreement. By not approving of the intergovernmental agreement, you're going to make them have to go back and determine how to do it the right way. And that's why we have the intergovernmental agreement. It's there so that we can do the things that need to be done so that we can have free and fair elections, so that we can have honest elections. Mail-in elections are not honest elections. They don't work. They have no chain of custody. They have substandard identity. And because of those things, we cannot use them because the result is an uncertifiable election. So at the end of the day, if you spend time and money having an election that is uncertifiable, what have you done? You've wasted time and money and maybe forced an illegal result on the people of the county. So you can't do it. So you've got to stop with disapprove of this IGA and tell them to go back and put into process a way that the people will know that the result is legitimate. We never approved of this thing. You never came to us and asked us if you approve of all mail-in elections. You have to do that. You can't just do these things. You have to ask the citizens. And the citizens have resoundingly said, no, we don't want an all mail-in election now or ever. We don't consent to these things. And because we don't consent to them, you as our representatives go to the government and say, we don't consent. We're not going to do it. And that's the end of it. And then you put in place an election system that people can trust, that people can believe in, that the results are right there. They're not on a machine that can be manipulated by code. As we all know, code is easily manipulatable. I did it for 34 years. So I know how easy code can be manipulated. And I know how signatures are manipulated by forgers, by machines that can write a perfect signature, by other people signing for other people. There's no way to prove it. So without proof, you can't certify the elections. And that's our biggest problem with mail-in elections, is the use of things which result in an uncertifiable election. So we want you to disapprove of the IGA. We don't want mail-in elections. Now, you've gone around us again and again and again, and we're telling you, we're giving you very direct guidance not to do this. So when it comes up to vote again, vote no. Don't vote against the people like you continuously do. That's not representative government. You're not representing us when you hear us say don't do it, and then you do it anyhow. So you've got to stop. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Juan Quan, do you wish to speak on item number 6 also?
Yes, please. As Mrs. Judd had relayed to us, last time when the school board put this up for a vote in the general election, the measure did not pass, and there's no confidence with them by the relaying of the quote by Mrs. Judd that if we have people vote in person, this won't pass. That sounds very odd to me, and it sounds like we're being scammed here, that you're not, the school board is not confident of winning the issue based on merits. And we love to fund the education of our children, of our neighbors' children. That is not the issue. What are you using these funds for, and why are you not confident that if people showed up to the poll and have one voice, one vote, counted fairly, that you would think that it would not pass? What is wrong with you? What are you teaching our children? Are you teaching them to be scammers? To be misrepresenting the issues? To rig the system? I'm very disappointed. I'm disappointed in those who voted yes to abet their subdivision, this taxing district, to do something that we deemed as substandard, illegal. We have no confidence in, we don't want to participate in. This is not a representative republic. You are not representing us. Consider carefully what you are setting as examples to the children that these school boards purport to teach. Thank you.
Juan Quan Dijayan, that's there in your home with you. Please put her
Yes.
on. Thank you.
I am here. Thank you. Thank you, fellow citizens, for saying exactly what I meant to say, which is we do not want machine voting that can cheat us out of our voice and our freedom. You, ladies and gentlemen on the board, as long as you are representing us honestly and fairly, we will support you. But since you are not doing that, you leave us no choice but to work to remove you, because we need to get the job done. Cannot emphasize it enough. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, Johnny Lee Wilson.
Thank you.
Johnny Lee Wilson, Sierra Vista, Arizona. I wasn't going to say anything because I already told you I spoke on both of them, but don't take this wrong, but I got a question. Why don't you follow the will of the people? Somebody got something on you? Somebody paying you off? I mean, I'm serious. Why? I mean, when Tom brings up the Constitution, I mean, you got the people over here, the lawyers and the administrators. You guys know the Constitution? Should read it, find out. I mean, should I just not come anymore? Should I just let my country and my county go? But anyway, just do what's right. If you got a conscience, go with your conscience.
Sandy Troll. Okay. Robert McCormick. Okay, Ronald Brooks.
Hello again. Ronald Brooks, Benson, Arizona. I would reiterate what we said in the last item, but I think you heard the crowd here when you slipped up and said they would not win. Oh my gosh. I just got to leave. What is wrong with you people? We're losing this country. We're losing the state. We're losing this county. Why don't you say, look, I had to go with the will of people. I'm sorry I voted against you guys on this. But I would say, do not support anybody that wants to do mail-in elections or use machines. Just say we'll support you if you want to do a hand count, mail-in or a paper ballot. Our county will support you in this, and that would be my answer. Thank you.
Jenny Walston. Not Jenny Walston. Was she on Teams? Oh, she's opposed, not speaking. Okay, ready to go. Okay, item number 6, any discussion on that?
Yes.
Proceed.
I will simply say the last 2 sentences of what I said before, which was, after Crosby asks when a work session should be set up to address what election integrity reform should be pursued after the May election, Judd suggests that there is a pressing need to reach out for legal advice as to when such a session can be set up. And so that's been 5 months of pressing need. At some point, you became the chair. So I wonder if that's ever going to happen to me.
I maybe I'm mistaken, but we did hold, I remember holding a work session on that.
I don't remember that, so you'll have to refresh.
And we
my
were
memory
directed
sometime.
to bring in our ideas as
Okay.
motion.
So can you tell
we
me
can
the date
still
of
do
that?
that.
Tell me the date of that when you have time.
Okay. I would like to say it is semantics why they would not win. It was not that they were going to cheat. I promise. It was semantics. People don't go to the polls as often as they return their mail-in ballots. And we did win at the polls our last time we tried to pass a bond. We did win at the polls. So anyone from Wilcox would know that, but people here aren't from Wilcox. I want you to know that we don't make all of the decisions for everybody here. And I know we can today say no IGA, sorry, and put everybody back to the table. But we're working hard on the kind of things we need to. And this, we need to let our districts, our special districts do their job. And I'm okay. So I know that you've all had your piece. I've said enough today, more than I should have. I want you to know this isn't personal. Thank you. All right. I'm ready. If there's no other comments, I'm ready to call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
The chair votes aye. The motion carries. Item number 17, as promised. We need to take that off the table.
Item number 17 is coming off the table.
So you need to motion on that.
Okay. Madam Chair, I move we remove from the table the July 11th, 2023 regular Board of Supervisors meeting approved contract 23-14-REC-01 with Authentics LLC and ProVote Solutions for ballot fraud countermeasures at costs noted in the attached pricing proposals effective July 11th, 2023.
Second.
That's going to take it off the table.
I'm not going to second it because I haven't received no information that would allow me to have any vote on this today, and so I don't want to move it from the table.
I don't have any problem with that, but somehow we need to set the next untabling date for this.
We need to set it
2 weeks or a month from now.
Madam Chair, in order to even discuss it, it has to be removed from the table. So
I didn't hear that.
In order to even discuss the item, it needs to be removed from the table. So I think Supervisor Dorsey was making a motion to remove from the table. Okay.
Okay, we have a motion in a second. All those in favor of removing this item from the table, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are you? And all opposed?
Nay.
Okay. All right. So 2 ayes. We have removed the item from the table. Now I would entertain a motion because we have not received, as said, the paperwork we needed. Before I entertain that motion, I want to let the people that have signed up to speak know that when we make this next vote, all of these people that have signed up to speak on item number 17 will be saved in our records, and you can come back on the day that we hear this, okay? So it's not, you don't have to sign up again to speak. We realize we're putting you off week by week. All right, so I would entertain a motion to table this item again.
What will be the date?
August 8th.
And if I may, Madam Chair, and I don't know if Recorder Stevens is I don't see him here. Is he online? The information that he provided to me that he was requesting that this item be tabled to August 8th, which is our next board meeting. But if Recorder Stevens is online, if he can verify that.
He never seems to be available.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion.
Okay. Madam Chair, I move we table the item from July 11th, 2023, regular Board of Supervisors meeting, approved contract 23-14-REC-01 with Authentics LLC and Pro Vote Solutions for ballot fraud countermeasures at costs noted in the attached pricing proposals until August 8th, 2023.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all those in, is there any other discussion? Oh, it's tabled, sorry. All those in favor say aye.
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 The chair votes aye and the motion carries. Okay, now item number, the next one. This is, where am I?
Item number 10.
Item number 10.
Oh yeah, it's on the next page. I have a lot of notes on that page. Okay,
hearing.
public hearings. Item number 10, and that is, can we have a motion on that? Approve a series of 10 liquor license.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve a Series 10 beer and wine store new liquor license application submitted by Jack Cullen for 1036 East Eastland Road, Pierce, Arizona, 85625.
Second.
Okay, do we have a presentation on this, Ms. Laura?
Madam Chair, members of the board, this is a new Series 10 store liquor license application submitted for Columns Country Cupboard at 1036 East Eastland Road, Pierce, Arizona, 85625. The application has been reviewed and recommended for approval by the appropriate departments. Property taxes for the parcel are current. The notice and application were posted as required by state law, and no formal protests were received. The applicant has paid the $100 processing fee, and board staff is recommending approval.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to open a public hearing on this item. Is there anyone from the public wanting to speak on this liquor license as presented? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Any discussion?
None at this time.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye and the motion carries unanimously. The next item, number 11, if we could have a...
Madam Chair, I move we adopt Resolution 23-22 to approve docket CPA 23-03 Hereford Mosen, a minor amendment for the Comprehensive Plan Growth Areas and Land Jurisdiction map of the Cochise County Comprehensive Plan, and adopt zoning ordinance 23-13 to conditionally approve docket RZ 23-11 Hereford Mosen to rezone parcel 104-75-006 from RU4 Rural 1 dwelling per 4 acres to TB General Business pursuant to the application of Mr. Sean McKeown.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We're going to have our presentation by Christine McLaughlin, Planning Division Manager.
Good afternoon. This is an applicant-initiated rezoning request with a concurrent comp plan map amendment. The applicant, Sean McKeown, requests a rezoning from RU4, Rural 1 dwelling per 4 acres, to GB, General Business, and a concurrent comprehensive map amendment from D, Rural Residential, to C, Developing on APN 104-75006, which is 13.04 acres. Currently, the parcel is undeveloped. The request is to help facilitate future commercial development on the property. The general intent is to remove some potential barriers to the parcel's redevelopment and increase its marketability. The applicant is online, I believe. The property is in Hereford. On this graphic, I include the location of the parcel within the county as well as the growth category from our comp plan. Anything not color-coded is category D, which encompasses over 90% of the county. Growth categories A through C are near population centers like cities and other census-designated places like Palominas and Elfrida. Growth categories A through C also tend to occur near major roads. And here I zoom into the property. It's on the northeast side of the intersection of Mosen and Hereford Road. Property to the north and east is developed. and is zoned RU4. There is low-density residential development present. The parcels to the west and south are undeveloped and under private ownership. They are similarly zoned RU4. Here are some photos of the site perimeter. There are above-ground power poles that follow both roads. Both Hereford and Moen are paved two-lane roads. There is a study underway currently for Moen Road to determine some necessary improvements that might include shoulder enhancements. Here is the current land use. It's pretty much split between D, rural residential, and D, rural. The closest non-D category is 2 miles west of the property on Hereford Road at Y Lightning Road. And here's the zoning. Everything nearby is zoned RU4. The closest non-RU4 zone parcel is again 2 miles west at Y Lightning Road. There are 6 factors we use to evaluate all comp plan map amendment requests. It complies with 4 of those factors, as it does not comply with 2. A lot of the analysis relates to pattern of development when we're looking at comp plan amendments. In recent years, there has been an increase in residential development and permitting activity. The county regularly processes special use applications, particularly near municipal areas, to incorporate non-residential uses compatible with their surroundings. While the applicant did not provide a site plan for the property, he did provide a narrative, and as stated in the application, the parcel is of sufficient size to accommodate a less intensive commercial use. A convenience store with a gas station, service station on the corner of Hereford and Moen Road could provide over 10,000 residents who would otherwise have to drive a further distance for fuel. Just
don't speak out like that. We keep it quiet in here, guys.
Just north of the convenience store would be retail sales, locations for indoor self-storage facility that would be gated for security. The goal is to create convenience to residents while keeping with the harmonious transition from rural to less intensive commercial business. There are 15 factors we use to evaluate all rezoning requests. It complies with 8. Complies with conditions on 2 factors, and it does not comply with 3 factors, and 2 factors are inapplicable. Next, public input. What is shown on the slide is input I received as of July 14th, which was my deadline to input this information. As of today, I have received 16 letters of opposition and 1 in support. Nearly all letters were attached to this report for the board to review. There was also a petition attached. The petition was placed in a local business near the subject parcel prior to the commission hearing. And this petition availability was advertised on local social media. None of the signatures have been verified by staff. What this slide shows you is that 5 of the nearby property owners opposed the request. If I were to expand this map further, you would see that of the 16 letters of opposition received, 6 were within 1 mile of the subject parcel. The objections I noted were the use would increase traffic, noise, activity, dust, light pollution, density. General concern, there was general concern with living near commercial zoning. There were concerns about encouraging more commercial use. There were safety concerns, particularly regarding traffic and school bus stops. General feelings that the area should stay rural, and there was also consensus among the objections that there was enough business use in this general area. Factors in favor of the request, there is the potential for growth and development in the area. Our current land use map is imbalanced, heavily favoring Category D rural land use, even along major corridors and near cities. The subject property is at the intersection of 2 major collector roads. These are in fact the only major collector roads in Hereford. Given the location, visibility, and accessibility of the parcel, low-density residential is not likely to be the highest and best use of the property. Factors against the request, there is not support from the existing surrounding property owners, and this is a break in the current land use pattern. Factors in favor of the rezoning, there is very little general business zoning in Cochise County. The zoning is only permitted within enterprise and developing planned land use designations. If the board conditionally approves the request, Future redevelopment will be limited to some of the less intensive commercial uses. It will be held to a higher standard for landscape installation and maintenance, and the county will gain 50 feet of right-of-way along Hereford and Mosen roads. I will discuss the recommended conditions on the next slide. Factors against the rezoning follow generally those stated for the land use amendment, namely neighbor opposition and breaking the rule zoning pattern. Next, I'd like to discuss conditions. I want to stress that I feel this request can be supported by staff, but only if it is conditioned. The applicant has proactively requested conditional rezoning, which is intended to help promote compatibility of the use. The conditions include limiting potential permitted and special uses, attaching a zoning reversion clause, dedicating right-of-way to the county for road improvements, and mandating landscape installation and maintenance. The general business zoning category is one of the most intense and permissive zoning designations. It allows 45 permitted uses and 23 special uses. The ones listed on this slide would be permitted if the request is approved and conditioned. All other principal uses, for example, commercial parking lot, RV parks, would not be allowed. The same is true for potential special uses. Special uses, such as a truck stop or swap meet, would not be allowed, again, if conditioned. The county does need additional right-of-way along both roadways, and the applicant would be required to install and maintain commercial landscape. This was heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission on July 12th. We did have many community members present. As with all rezoning requests, it's the Commission's responsibility to provide a recommendation to the board. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended forwarding approval of the conditional rezoning and conditional map amendments, and the comprehensive map amendment request at their July 12, 2023 meeting by a vote of 5-3, approve, deny. Staff recommends conditional approval. The recommendations are on this slide. That concludes my presentation. I understand there are several speaker requests. I'm available for questions.
Okay. Does the board have any questions at this time? Or do we want to?
I don't have any questions here.
I don't either.
I got a question that I sent to Mr. Coxworth and Sharon yesterday afternoon regarding verbiage that we've seen from time to time that is the requirements to for the Board of Supervisors to reverse a P&Z decision. Do we have the slide on this? Oh, Mr. Coxworth.
Supervisor Crosby, the appeal is a couple dockets later. This is a recommendation from P&Z to you for approval. So this isn't an appeal, but that language will be available in the during my presentation.
Okay. Are you going to make a presentation today? Excellent.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That one. You don't have any questions? Okay. I'm going to call to the public now. Sean McKeown.
Yes,
There we go. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Sean McEwen. My address is 3620 East County, 16 Street in Somerton, Arizona, 85350. Thank you to the Board of Supervisors and the local landowners and residents attending this meeting. I apologize for not being able to make it in person. There is opposition concerning the rezoning of this property in question. I understand the local residents' views and opinions and respect them. I submitted this application with the idea of creating a convenience for the locals while creating income for the county. I want to thank those who submitted their thoughts on the rezoning. April Scriven, who is my direct neighbor to the east, wrote an honest and fair opposition letter. She was in opposition, but listed requests that she would like to see implemented if the rezoning were to occur. I would fully abide by her requests. The Morgans also submitted a fair and honest letter, and I want to thank them as well. I was born and raised just west of this property for the first 18 years of my life. I am not some out-of-towner trying to change everything in the area. I plan to move back to Hereford with my wife and our 4 young children in the upcoming years. If the rezoning were to occur, I would like to work with local residents and get their input on requests by businesses that would like to operate on the property. I would like to keep in contact with April Scriven and the Malcolms who all border the property to the east, on requests that I received from businesses wanting to operate on the property. I know this might be rare, but I would want to hear either the pros or cons from my direct neighbors before making any decisions on what businesses would use the property. I understand that there is opposition of a gas station, and as I said in the commission meeting, there doesn't have to be a gas station. It was just a suggestion. I understand that there are some residents in favor of a grocery store if zoning is approved, and that was found on social media. I understand that the safety of children has been brought up concerning bus stops near the property. There are 2 bus stops for children very close to a busier intersection to the west near Highway 92 and Hereford Road. To my knowledge, there have been no issues with those stops, even though through traffic is much greater at that corner than the corner of Hereford and Moen Road currently. What was not talked about at the commission meeting was a time frame for businesses to operate on the property. Do I think the property is ready for immediate business? No, and the property will probably look just as it does now for at least the next few years or more. With the plans to extend Moen Road south to to Highway 92 in the future, the need for businesses to exist on the property could benefit the county and the residents. In closing, I want to work with local residents and especially my direct neighbors concerning the businesses that might occupy the land next to them. Like I stated earlier, this might be rare, but I value their input and wishes if the property were to be rezoned. And the 50-foot right-of-way is also included in the rezoning application for both Moen Road and Hereford Road, as there is no right-of-way at this time. Thank you, and I will gladly answer any questions from the board.
Are there any questions for
for
the owner? He's owned the property. We don't have anything now. We will continue with the public speaking on this. Cheryl Morgan.
We open the public hearing.
Oh, I am opening the public hearing before you speak. Okay, public hearing time. Come on up.
Good afternoon or morning, whatever it is now. Thank you. My name is Colonel Cheryl Morgan. I live at 7830 East Chippewa Street, Hereford, Arizona, 85615. And I'm here today to the board to describe to you why I request that you do not approve this rezoning. This is what this means. Having looked at the Planning Commission and looked at the rules and regulations, approving this rezoning means for the next decade, this piece of land can be sold and resold to anybody and can be divided up, not just for one business and commercial use, but for multiple businesses. We have no idea, and we don't know how many businesses could be put there. The current owner has gone out and said he wants to work with us, but whatever he promises isn't binding on whoever he sells this to. He can't make them live by his promises. And there is no plan, as articulated by Ms. McLaughlin, saying it was put out and that the County Planning Commission was the one that came up with the 18 opportunities. There is no plan. There is no plan, and we can't decide what's going to happen, and nobody can figure that out. The zoning for the rural is based on the county vision and the input by the local population. Those reasons haven't changed. There are all types of environmental factors affected, but most importantly, I want to just touch on one, which is water. There's no registered well on this property. We've researched this. So that means at least one well is going to have to be drilled. As a ranch owner, I know that differences between commercial and residential and agricultural land drilling. A resident in Arizona, according to the official records, is going to use 146 gallons of water per person per day. But the businesses, for example, by official estimates, would use 10 gallons of water per car per day for a gas station or a convenience store. And again, there could be multiple businesses on this property. That means multiple water use. We've lived here for decades. We've invested thousands of hours, thousands of dollars in our sweat equity into this property. There are documented reasons why this land should remain rural zoned, and there's only one reason to rezone it, and that's to make more money at our expense. The individual has every right to sell his inherited property, but he should be doing so in accordance with what we live by, why we came here. I request that the county's visions and policies, which are very specific, be put against the individual's proposal, which is vague by his own admission. In closing, I would like to say that the recommendation from the zoning panel was not unanimous, and they expressed concerns as well. There was even a member who voted for this and expressed concerns. In closing, again, I'd like to say I've had the advantage of being all over this county by my support with the Civil Air Patrol, and I've seen a lot of businesses that have closed. And I don't know why they've closed, but I don't want to see another failed business within view of my property. Thank you for your time.
So, Doctor, we don't take time for applause and that sort of thing. This is not the setting for that. This is a public hearing. Okay. Dr. Carrie G. Morgan.
Madam Chairperson, board members, ladies and gentlemen, I am Chief Warrant Officer 5, Morgan, United States Army, retired, also known as Dr. Morgan, retired from the Defense Intelligence Agency. I live next to Colonel Morgan. I'm here today to add my voice and support in concert with my neighbors opposing the application to rezoning. The overwhelming public input, and read that as verbal, written, and petition, has categorically opposed the rezoning. It is not my intent to repeat all the well-stated opposition's commentary. In a short while, the board will vote on what appears to be, and I use that term, appears to be a fait accompli decision based upon the posted staff presentation, resolution, and ordinance statements. However, again, voted yet. I request one consideration. An approval vote will certainly advance the applicant's stated goals of increasing property density and raising the values for the surrounded areas. This will be at the expense of our neighborhood, and collectively, we will have to contend with those impacts as well as the second and third order effects. Indeed, I ask you, where are the considerations for our investments? All my neighbors out here, no one gave me my property. We invested in Cochise County and our area. Most have stated we're here because of the rural living experience. And that doesn't include living to a shopping center, a car wash, or a bar. The staff's conclusions included the intersection of two major roads, Burford and Moen, less desirable for rural residential living, and also impacts on low density residential. It's not the best use of the property. Yet, my neighbors have invested in this area. We've built houses, made homes, all in accordance with the rezoning comprehensive plan, and you know we're doing okay without commercialization of our homes. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Next is Shanna Herrera. We have had a lot of public speaking today. If you could, when you do approach the microphone, just a reminder, say your name and your address.
Thank you. Shauna Herrera, 6323 South Keno Road in Hereford. I live about 2 miles from the proposed rezoning. You're going to hear a lot of reasons today about why the residents don't want this property rezoned, and I agree with all of them. But I'm going to come at this from a slightly different angle. What I'd like to talk about today is county staff influence on our boards. Watching the last P&Z meeting, it seemed to me that there was a whatever staff thinks is best is okay with me attitude. Well, frankly, that is not why they're there. Why even have a commission if they're just going to be a rubber stamp for the county? There was overwhelming negative response to this proposal, yet it seemed only 3 of the commissioners acknowledged that. Sorry. Now, I know you typically don't like overturning the P&Z recommendation, but with all due respect, the commissioners got it wrong. What is the difference between this proposal and the Dollar General proposal that was denied on Moen and Ramsey a few years back? The answer is there is no difference. The concerns are the same. Traffic, light pollution, noise pollution. If anything, this proposal is worse because of the unknown aspect of what can be built there. Yet the same planner recommended denial back then and now recommends approval for the current proposal. One can't help but wonder if the 50-foot road rights on Moen and Hereford that the county would gain with this rezoning has anything to do with the recommended approval. The area is open to businesses that blend with our rural lifestyle. Roadway improvements should serve property use and not the other way around. The bottom line is, it doesn't matter what this board wants. It doesn't matter what the P&Z board wanted. And it doesn't matter what county staff wants. What matters is what the people you represent want. And we have spoken. Now is not the time, and this proposal is not the way. Please listen to your constituents and deny the county's agenda to move this forward. Thank you.
Shelley Scriven is next. Says she's in person. Shelley Scriven or Scriven. No way to know how to pronounce their names. Okay. And I will know in a minute because she's going to say her name when she starts. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Shelley Scriven. I live at 7123 South Los Flores. I live right next to that property. Okay, my daughter lives right next to the property also. She also owns land right there. I've been a Hereford resident for over 35 years. I've watched Hereford grow, and I love all the people that have moved in. We've really got some wonderful neighbors. As a resident and homeowner, I'm also a grandma. I have grandchildren. I want them to be able to live the Arizona rural, which you process in all the magazines about the rural areas and how beautiful they are. Now, I'm blessed because I got mountains behind me and in front of me. I can see, I get to watch the majestic mountains. I get to watch the thunderstorms coming over the mountains in the morning times. I get to see the stars at night. A lot of people don't get to see any of those blessings, and I get to see them all. I also get to see the beautiful wildlife, everything from tarantulas, horny toads, box turtles, and even rattlesnakes. But we love our rural area for a reason, because it is rural. We moved to Arizona for the rural area. When I lived on Jackson Road, I was the third person who lived out there. Nobody else was out there but 3 of us. Then it got a little crowded, so we moved out farther. Well, I love my area, and I do not want any commercial businesses in our homestead. We went out, and we have over 400 petitions signed by all of our local residents. And I brought them in yesterday to turn them in, but I was told I had to make 3 copies. I went out, made 3 copies, and here they are. And I would like you to look at them. You can verify the signatures. That's fine. But these are 400 local residents who are saying no to this for a reason. This is our home. This is our backyard. That's all I can say.
Our next speaker, and can just hand those to the clerk at the end. Our next speaker is Reverend Samuel B. Johnson.
My name is Reverend Johnson. I live just outside Bisbee. I have a Bisbee mailing address, but I actually live 3 miles closer to Palominas. This board approved this zoning regulation on February 23, 2023, so I'm sure that all of you are intimately aware of what you signed. So we are going to start with Article 4. There is some language in the county zoning regulation, and there's this one word I want y'all to hear. Specific. Not possible, not maybe, sometime in the future. It says specific. And it uses this word specific multiple times through Articles 4 and 22 and the criminal statute you assign to it in Article 23. This article says that there has to be specific use for the land. There is provisions for you don't have development today, but you have to have a specific plan that has to be enacted in phases that will take no more than 5 years. But at the beginning, there has to be specific use. You signed this into law. You made it a law when you put a criminal statute attached to it. Violation of this law constitutes legal criminal actions by your own signatures. Let's just start there. Declaration 402. The application will not be accepted unless it meets the criteria required. It does not specify that this will be accepted by potentials. It has to have specific. That is the term used in the document multiple times. You are not just rezoning. You're doing three things in one transaction. You are changing the category of use. You are changing the plan designation. And you are changing the permitted zoning districts. Three separate transactions. If a piece of land that is unoccupied is zone D, category D, for rural, that is unoccupied, yet all the occupied lands around it are still category D, what makes an unoccupied piece of land category C? It doesn't, by your own regulation. There's enough litigation going on with this board. Do we need to add more civil litigation and criminal charges? Really? This is the criminal statute that you wrote. Right there. Every violation is a class 2 misdemeanor. And every violation for every day is an additional misdemeanor. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Christopher Brian Hindle. Christopher Brian Hindle. In person, it says. Okay. The next speaker is Jackie Collins. Just note that that was opposed. Oh, excuse me. Christopher Brian Hindle says, I support. There you go. I don't want to give you the wrong information. Okay. Jackie Collins.
I'm Jackie Collins. I live in Hereford. I have sold real estate for 50 years, 23 right here in Cochise County. And I have seen boards such as this make good decisions. I've seen them make pretty bad ones. I do not understand why the commission thought it was so important to move this forward. If you look at a zoning map from Glen Road south to Ramsey on the east side, it's all general business except for one parcel. From Ramsey Road south to about White Lily Lane, it's on both sides, general business. Now, the McKean family have owned this property for 20 years. And if you drive Hereford Road, you know what other property they own, M&R Auto Supply. So they have been a statute in this county for quite a while. But is that the reason to give them carte blanche rezoning of a parcel that should not be? That parcel on Hereford Road in Moen is best served, and I'm going to go against the commission. I've been selling real estate long enough that I think I have a feeling for what people want, and they move to unimproved roads, poor internet, because they want a rural lifestyle. We have a lot of general business zone property. And the good thing about anything along Highway 92, the state of Arizona maintains that right of way. But to jump 4 miles out of that corridor and say, okay, Cochise County, you get to maintain these roads. The state of Arizona is not going to because they're nowhere around it. And all we hear is the fact that the county doesn't have money to maintain roads, but yet this family that own this property don't really care. If they get it rezoned and 3 years from now he can sell it, triple his money, and as a realtor, I guarantee you that's what's going to happen. If they are really concerned about maintaining the county that I grew up in for 18 years, then leave it alone. You have a commercial or a general business property right there on Hereford, and it's called M&R Auto, and right next to it, I have a piece of property that I cannot sell because of your business. So buy that piece of property and do whatever you want to do at Moen and Hereford. It's for sale. To the Board of Supervisors here, you are going to make a real irresponsible vote if you vote for this. You are opening up the floodgate for more spot rezoning. And in the past, when I've been over here, the county doesn't do that. Thank you.
The next speaker is Jackie Collin. Wait, that was Jackie, sorry. Johnny Lee Wilson.
Me again. Johnny Lee Wilson, Sierra Vista, Arizona. I live about 3 miles from this area. And like everybody else, we moved here to be rural. We live on an unimproved road. That's the reason we got rid of our new car and bought an old 89 Bronco because parts fall off as you go down the road. But we love it. We can see the stars at night. I can hear my donkeys bray, the chickens cluck. We do have an alpaca ranch across the street from us, and they made weird noises, but we don't want the extra traffic on the road. We like living on the road less traveled. They just redone Mosen Road. They didn't do a very good job. You go down the end towards 90, the potholes are already coming out. So if they're going to improve the road, what are they going to do? Are they going to improve it right or just throw a bunch of stuff over the top of it? But anyway, I ask you to vote against this. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Debbie Tironi.
My name is Debbie Tironi, and I'm from South Hargis Ranch Road in Hereford. Originally, I came here from New York, and I came here for the rural life. I like to ride my horse down South Hargis Road, up Hereford, and back down Mosen, and do a nice big loop. Not just me, my husband, my family when they come out to visit me from New York, my grandson who rides his quad and his motorcycle along with Sherry's grandchildren all over the place. We don't worry about those kids. Put something, gas station, then we got to worry about the immigrants coming across the border for a nice little safe haven of a fountain drink or water or whatever to rehydrate themselves. Now we got to worry about that. I got to worry about that in my own backyard. Nothing's being done about that. Constant smug looks don't work for me at all. Okay? They don't work. That's all you had all this time. I've been to these meetings 3 times. This is my 3rd meeting. I've been here 1 year. And smug look is all I get. I'm tired of it. We are the people in this county. We live here. We all moved here for different reasons. Some longer, some smaller, some larger, some bigger, some shorter time. Some of us are moving and some of us are dying. But we want to stay the way we stay and to live the life we live. That's why we're here. Not fair that you are personal. It's not personal to you or you or you. You know who it's personal to? Us. Our entire community over there in Hereford. That's who we are. We're a community. I get a phone call because somebody needs something, their horse is colicking, I'm there. I drop and I run. Somebody's kid needs to be picked up from school, I'm there. I drop and I go get. You need food? Come get food out of my garden. You need food? I'll slaughter a goat for you. I'll drop it off. That's how it works. We don't do that in New York. New York is for whoever, themselves. That's not who you people are for. You're for us. That's why I moved here to Arizona. I didn't move here to look at smug looks on a board. Not even New York does that. Have a nice day.
Daniel Webster.
Good afternoon, Board. The last lady spoke about it being personal for people. I'd like to bring up the fact that somebody that was actually a yes vote for this on the Planning and Zoning Committee voted no for the Canyon General when it was close to his home. So it's very easy to vote things that don't affect you personally. Me, I live off Highway 92, and looking north is the only place that direction I can look where there's no light pollution. I got Naco to the east and Mexico to the south, just lights blaring everywhere. It'd be nice to keep that sky dark. There's 3 miles down the road for gas, fuel, whatever you need. If your people can't drive 3 miles, then they can move into town. There's been very articulate reasons for this not to go in. Don't need to keep going down the list, but thankful they're more elegant than I am with their speech, and they've hit it, but strong opposition against this thing. I guess we're going to see if the board is truly for the people. That has not been demonstrated yet. And so if this goes against the will of the people, I just have to tell everybody Frank Antonori, when he runs against Judd, is our only way to get this board back to the people. Thank you.
Cynthia Marchand, please hold your applause. Cynthia Marchand.
I'm Cynthia Marchand, and I am the executor of the estate of my parents that live not too far from this idea. And I actually am talking in behalf of them because they are sick and elderly. So I really don't know a lot about this. I'm kind of a newbie here in Arizona for 9 years. But I do know that my parents moved out here in this community because they wanted a rural life. They wanted to be away from the town. They enjoy the stars, the moon, the sky, the birds, the crickets, the early rising of the roosters and the hens around them, the braying of the mules, the neighing of the horses, and close friends and a close community that care and love each other and help each other out. So I'm not here to yell and scream. It doesn't accomplish anything. Money, power, and position always come to the front. But I think when we can unite as a group and express ourselves in a loving and kind way, that's how we accomplish things in our community. So I honestly, what I would like to bring before the board is that I don't know what the price is of the land. I know it's 13 acres. But I would be willing to purchase that land, but it would be used for the benefit of the community. And I'm not sure who needs to direct me in that direction. I'm sure somebody can. But I definitely would like to oppose this because we want peace. We want to have the beauty of God's creation around us. We don't want it being imposed by the commercial world, which is a daily thing in our world. But if we can do something to prevent that and keep our families close, our community working together instead of fighting and arguing, I think that's a good thing. So that's why I'm here. I'm Cindy Marchand, and I'd like to buy the land. But the land, again, would be used for the community and to benefit our community, not bring in commercial stuff that's going to take away what my parents moved out there for. And honestly, trying to buy the land is probably way out of my ballpark, but I'm willing to try that if it's reasonable. And So I guess that's all I have to say. So thank you.
Thanks. Tina Lynn Myers.
Good afternoon. My name is Tina Lynn Myers. I live at 7827 East Larson Road. I am catty corner to the property on the north side. I can see the property from my front yard. I got a letter from the gentleman who had this in his family. I called him, asked what his intentions were. He said that he didn't think he could sell it to make the money that he wanted for it. He wanted to have this go, the land go commercial, so he had more options. He wanted it to be a gas station or a public storage. I asked if he did any analysis to support this because I can go to the gas station 3 miles away. He said he hadn't. And so that let me believe, and my family believe, that all he wanted to do is put it commercial and then sell it. We're not in favor of it. I think everybody else has spoke about it, and I'm right in line. What I would like to talk about is something that happened to me in Alaska before we moved here. The property that we live in now has been in our family since the 80s, and I purchased it as a descendant. But before moving down here, we lived in Alaska. Something similar happened to us on this country road. We had a house built, gorgeous house. They came in, they put it commercial. The person across from us, catty corner again, said, oh no, we're doing this, we're doing that. And I'm like, okay, I'll support it. He also said, I will not do anything to harm any of the value of the property. So I said, okay. Well, my husband was injured on the line of duty. Because of his injuries, he had to retire. Alaska is too harsh of a condition for him, so we moved to where our family is down in Hereford. We took a loss because the person he sold it to basically were a bunch of meth heads, and they made a junkyard out of it, hundreds of cars. I had to take from my beautiful house a deduction of $135,000 when I sold my house. I can't do that again because we're on limited income where I take care of I can't work. You know, I had to end my career. You know, I still have student loans. I'm taking care of my husband and the best quality of life he has. I can't lose the money.
So our next speaker is Kathleen Hosko.
My name is Kathleen Hosko, otherwise known as Kitty. I live at 8553 East Double H Lane. We, the Hereford community, come together today to share our oppositions about this rezoning. We're not only taxpayers and voters, but we're also much more. We're ranchers, teachers, retail associates, construction workers, waitresses, homemakers, border patrol agents, law enforcement. We're family, friends, neighbors, and above all, we're a community, and we gather together to help each other. And we're here today to let you know what this means to all of us, our community, Hereford. There are a lot of members that wanted to be here today. However, they're working. They could not afford to take off. Some members have signed the petitions either in person or electronically to show their opposition to this rezoning. Rezoning can indeed have significant impacts on the surrounding area, including safety, traffic, the water usage, which is a big deal in Arizona. Hello, right? Noise and the pollution, whether it be trash floating around or light pollution. Cochise County highlights Hereford, Arizona for its beauty, its scenery, bird watching, watching the stars. Individuals move here to Hereford to escape the city and the business populated areas. That's why we live here. We do not want to be in a large populated area. We don't mind driving 3 miles, 4 miles to get gas. That's no big deal. If the rezoning plan is not complete, as it's not, and it does not specify the type of business that's allowed, it could create a lot of uncertainty and potential problems for our community. Without clear guidelines, it's challenging to anticipate the exact effects of what this development could have on the neighborhood, which is going to be very negative. All of this has not been harmonious. You talk about harmony in the area. This rezoning, if it's redone, is not harmonious to our area. Hereford is not commercialized. Hereford's rural. That's why we moved there. I have horses. I ride horses all over the area. This is not a good change. The gentleman who wants a change, yes, he thinks it's good because, yes, he has his own best interest in heart. If he so much wants to move to Hereford in the next few years with his 4 kids, he's got a property on which he could build a nice home.
The next speaker is Inca McCord.
Hello, Inga McCord again, still live in Stump Canyon in Hereford.
Get moved.
I went through the discussion of the cross and the church and the 4-story house in Ash Canyon 30 years ago. And what we saw was no oversight after they decided to allow this monstrosity to be put in the canyon. We saw changes that weren't approved, lights. We had fires up there. The area is very fragile, as is the high desert grassland, very fragile, not meant to have masses of the public. Okay, so here's my list. Oversight is essential. Must have a fixed site plan. You can't approve this for maybe there's going to be a veterinary clinic eventually. Maybe they're poisoning the water with inadequate whatever the businesses are. You've got to know what they are before you approve this, or people's wells can be contaminated. There's a light issue, which people have mentioned. There's height requirements. People perhaps would have their views destroyed if there are 2 or 3 stories of buildings built. It must be low water use. The speed limit would have to change due to high density traffic, so the speed limit could have to go down to 35. More animals will be killed. I actually have a real place in my heart when people speed down my dirt road and kill animals. People speed everywhere you go. They go 90 on on 92 and 80. People go insanely fast, and they do kill animals. And I personally don't like that. It's murder because they're creatures, but I'm a psycho. But there is an additional fire risk no matter where in this area you're going to build things that are commercial. The high density, I'm getting a little lost here. And it also opens up that area for additional commercial properties. Okay, so, well, they got one, so now and pretty soon it'll be a corridor of lights and businesses and dangerous, and we don't want that in the rural community. I don't want to be able to see the damn thing from my house up in the mountains because the pollution from lights is huge now. They had to move from St. Andrews or whatever, Yaqui, clear out to Palominos.
Thank you. That concludes our speakers, but there are 2 people signed up in opposition that chose not to speak. So we are back to the item at hand. Are there any further questions from the board or discussion? Nope. Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
I want to make a statement.
Yes,
before
please
we
make a statement.
Call for the vote on this. I've heard all of these people want to keep it rural, and of the 3 of us, I am the rural person with a rural attitude, value living in the country, but we can't always keep it that way, but we try. And I think that this this opportunity for this young man, or this man, I should say, whether he's young or not, wants to better his finances, and he thinks that having it commercial would do that. At some point in time, that may be something that you would accept as people who live in that community if you knew more. I think the unknown always scares us, and we don't want to open that door to just anything. So would you let me speak?
We can't talk out like that in here. Thank you. Let her speak.
What I'm saying is that I think that people don't want a night spot. They don't even want a gas station. They don't want a change to their lifestyle. And I have to agree that this is not, I don't think it's the appropriate place for it. I think that there are things that could be out there that enhance the lifestyle of people who live in the country. If you have a feed store, you're not going to have blazing lights at night, but you're going to have a service that people who live in the country perhaps want. So I just wanted to make the statement. I hear this young man, and I think that everybody has the right to do with their property what they think is best, and so he's trying this opportunity for himself. I think now is not the time. Maybe 10 years from now, that might fly, but right now I'm going to have to go with the idea of, I think I don't like spot zoning. I think that it's not a good idea to change a neighborhood by changing one spot. Now, that doesn't mean I've never done it, but I think that it's not an appropriate way for us to act as a board to start a spot zoning in an area that is still really rural. So that's my statement.
Thank you. Also, something I noticed is that, there's no site plan that's glaring when there's no real plan. So I just wanted to throw that out. She almost mentioned it, and she did a great job. All right. Are we ready to call for the vote? All those in favor say aye. Hearing none. All those opposed?
Nay.
Say nay. Nay. And this. Don't do that. You can take that outside, please. Please. Thank you. Thank you.
You need to understand that it wasn't your cheering that caused that.
Yeah. Thank you. So our next item is item number 12. Adopt zoning ordinance 2314. If we could have a motion.
Madam Chair, I move we adopt zoning ordinance 23-14 to rezone parcel 40577-046A from rural 10, rural 1 dwelling for 10 acres to RU4, rural 1 dwelling for 4 acres pursuant to the application of Mr. Mark.
Chair, I'm going to need you to repeat that in a moment. If we could just please exit the room quickly. We're going to call for the motion again. Thank you. Might be quiet enough if you get real close to the mic. Okay. Proceed.
Okay, I move we adopt zoning ordinance 23-14 to rezone parcel 405-77-046A from rural RU10 rural 1 dwelling per 10 acres to RU4 rural 1 dwelling per 4 acres pursuant to the application of Mr. Marco Noriega.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Our presentation is by Christine McLaughlin. Planning Division Manager.
Good afternoon. This is an applicant-initiated rezoning request. The applicant is Marco Noriega. The current zoning is RU10. The proposed zoning is RU4. There are no land use changes proposed. The parcel currently has a house and associated residential structures on site, which will remain. The applicant is represented by his daughter. Her name is Maria Esther Suchait. She is with us today if there are any questions. The property is located outside of Douglas at 7124 East Cazador Trail, APN 405-77046A. It's 15 acres in size. The current zoning is RU10, which means the parcel cannot be split. If the rezoning is approved, the applicant will be able to split the parcel into as many as 3 parcels, which he hopes to do for the benefit of his children. Here is a subject property and the immediate surroundings. It is low-density residential. The nearest structure belonging to a neighbor is about 800 feet west. During the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing, we did hear from 2 of the adjacent neighbors who spoke in opposition. They had concerns about potential water usage and current roadway conditions. Here is an aerial view. The parcel is zoned rural, so you can see various associated accessory structures. And here's the zoning. You can see that there's a mix of RU4 and RU10 in the area. At one time, there was a subdivision north and west of the subject parcel. That subdivision was abandoned. The zoning was reverted, which is why you see some of the RU10, which is less common than RU4 in Cochise County. This parcel does touch RU4 zoning to the south, so it would be an extension of an existing zoning district. There is some state and BLM land in the area. Those areas are not likely to develop in the near future. The RU4 property directly to the south is state trust land. Here are some photos. As you can see, the house is set back quite a ways from Lois Lane and it fronts Cazador Trail. Factors in favor of approval. The request complies with all applicable 15 rezoning factors used to analyze rezoning requests. While the request is an intensification, it would stay within the current rule designation, so it would not change potential uses or development standards. And the request is an expansion of RU4 zoning to the south, immediately adjacent. Factors against approval, the road access to this parcel is in poor condition. And there is some floodplain present on the western edge of the property. Based on the factors in favor of approval, the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously approved forwarding approval of the rezoning request to the board at their July 12th, 2023 meeting. Staff also recommends approval. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions. And again, the applicant is also present.
We're usually happy to down zone to a larger RU4 from RU2s. We don't always do this, but it does make perfectly good sense considering the location and the rural nature. And I'm not sure that they would care what kind of road conditions there were in this situation. So I can't see a lot of negative. Were there people opposed?
There were 2 neighbors that spoke in opposition at the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing. I did not receive any written comments to forward to you,
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Thank you. Well, is there any other questions or comments? Because I think we'd like to move this meeting along at this point. Okay, hearing none. Oh, I didn't open a public hearing. I'm going to open a public hearing on that. It's for this item, changing from RU10 to RU4. Were there any comments? Okay, hearing none, close the public hearing. All right, we're ready to vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye and the motion carries unanimously. All right, item 13, we need a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve or deny the Ocotillo storage appeal. And how does that work? You know, but
I think that you'll want to wait to do the motion.
I was going to say.
I have a sample motion at the end of my presentation.
Okay, so we're going to defer the motion. That's right. And have a presentation on this by Dan Coxworth, the Director of Developmental Services.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. This is an appeal of a special use permit approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission for a mini warehouse storage facility on a parcel located off of Ocotillo Road near Benson. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this request at their June 14 meeting and unanimously 9-0 approved the request subject to conditions. On the screen is a location map. It is bordered on the west and south by the city of Benson, and that property to the west and the south is zoned commercial. Catty Corner, I believe it's zoned industrial. And a site plan that was submitted with the application for the mini warehouse storage with access off of Ocotillo Road. These are the factors in favor of approval that Planning and Zoning Commission cited when approving the special use. Staff found only one factor against, which is 2 letters in opposition of the request. In evaluating this proposal, the board must consider if the decision by the Planning and Zoning Commission was erroneous, was the P&Z mistaken, or an error in their decision, arbitrary or capricious, did the P&Z make a random decision without a basis in fact, or an abuse of discretion. The P&Z is the correct body to review and decide the special use permit. Or has the applicant or has the appellant, provided additional information that was not presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission that is enough to overturn the decision of the Planning and Zoning. The appellant's application lists as a basis for appeal traffic and environmental impact. Concerning traffic, I mentioned that the access to the project will be off of Ocotillo Road, which is adequate for the amount of traffic that will be generated by the use. Concerning environmental impacts, staff transmitted to all necessary agencies and received standard comments with general recommendations from the Arizona Game and Fish. So a denial of this appeal request would affirm or support the decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission. An approval of this appeal request would reverse that decision, and the special use permit, the entitlement would go away. These are the conditions. There's 10 of them that were recommended or attached, to the approval of the special use permit by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And staff is recommending 2 additional conditions for your consideration: an increased setback from the east property line to provide an adequate buffer, and if the east property boundary, if the property owner to the east would like, an 8-foot wall could be also constructed on the property. So staff is recommending that these 2 additions.
I got the increased setback. What was the other one?
The other one is constructing an 8-foot wall along the appellant's property if she requests it prior to application submittal to the county.
So that would be a condition placed on him?
That would be an additional condition for your consideration. It was not placed on there by the Planning and Zoning Commission. It was mentioned in the staff's report to the commission that he would do that. However, it wasn't placed as a condition. So we're recommending that you add that now if you choose to deny this appeal.
Okay.
So we'll have language that says amended such and such.
My motion does include it, yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So if there's
one last slide. These are the factors in favor of appeal denial. A denial of the appeal would affirm a unanimous decision by the P&Z. The zoning regulations do allow for the applicant to apply for a special use approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Staff and the Planning Commission appropriately use the 10 factors in the zoning regulations to evaluate this request. Factors in favor of appeal approval, and I'll leave that up to the applicant, the appellant, when it's her opportunity to speak. Staff's recommendation is an appeal denial. Denial of the appeal thereby affirming the Planning and Zoning Commission's approval of SU 2312, attaching the original conditions of approval to the special use request and adding 2 additional conditions. My next slide is a sample motion for you, but we can wait on that.
Okay. Before we proceed, I need to open the public hearing. And
the appellant, I believe, is here.
Yes, and so the next thing is to hear a presentation from the appellants. You do have 10 minutes there's 2 of you, so if you'd like to split the time or one of you speak? Go ahead. Karen Mulholland, Kathy Glidwell, you can even decide how you go in order.
Madam Chair, excuse me, Madam Chair. I just wanted to clarify that each appellant will have 5 minutes then.
Yes, well, unless they decide different, 10 total.
Hello, everyone. I'm Karen Mulholland, known as Kereva. I live at 169 West Four Feathers Lane in Benson, and I oppose the SU 2312 Ocotillo storage being placed in our rural neighborhood for the following reasons. First of all, I'm concerned about stormwater runoff and management, as the proposed site is located near or within a designated FEMA flood hazard area Zone A. The projected site contains washes and arroyos leading to flood zone A. How does the applicant plan to control stormwater runoff? Once construction on this site destroys natural washes, forcing water to redirect and flood residences along West Four Feathers. We're on a county road that does flood, as is. That it's an unmaintained county road. Has the applicant submitted all Article 1809 floodplain and drainage requirements? I'm also concerned about light pollution from this facility. I'm not aware if it's a 24-hour facility. I was not informed. Ordinances against light pollution will impede desert night skies and is mentioned extensively in Article 16 over light pollution in the zoning regulations manual. There's also noise pollution that will occur throughout the indefinite construction period of this storage facility, followed by vehicles exiting and entering the facility all hours of the night once the facility is open and functioning. In accordance with Article 1716.02I, the applicant must take measures to mitigate off-site impacts such as dust, smoke, noise, odors, lights, or stormwater runoff. And how will the applicant comply with that? Development of this construction project performed on open space that is there right now will destroy 10 acres of active native shrubs, mesquite trees, and washes. This open space provides habitats to desert wildlife and hundreds of species of birds. This destruction will obliterate habitats and precious water resources created by monsoons that the wildlife needs. See Article 1503, Site Development Standards. I'm wondering how those will be implemented. Is there a lot of feedback? It's fine. I'm concerned about the impacts this project may have on my artesian well. An underground river flows underneath the proposed site for Ocotillo storage. Have there been studies to determine the impact this project could have on surrounding wells and water sources? So that flooding from this property on Ocotillo and Four Feathers Lane rushes right towards, uses Four Feathers Lane, if it doesn't go into the wash that's right across the street and head straight for the San Pedro. We're right off the San Pedro. Have there been studies to determine the impact this project could have on surrounding wells and water sources? Storage facilities store hazardous materials. No one even knows what's in there, so I'm not sure how the applicant intends to police the types of materials that are stored. Is there a contingency plan in place for chemical leaks that may seep into the underground river and or be swept into stormwater runoff that would race towards the properties on West Four Feathers Lane? See Article 1716.02H. I contribute to the local tourist economy through providing guest lodging. Guests spend money locally. They book with me due to the pristine wild desert surroundings, abundance of bird species and wildlife, stargazing, bird watching, and quiet country living. The presence of Ocotillo storage on the corner of West Four Feathers Lane and Ocotillo Road would create an industrial-type eyesore as the gateway to my guest ranch, which currently lures tourists due to the natural beauty of the area. And we are only 3 residences. We didn't have this big showing today, but our situation is very similar to the Hereford situation. And
does she want to let you use some of her minutes?
She'll need her minutes.
Okay. Well, thank you. Okay,
Yes.
do that. Hey, and just give us your name.
Kathy Glidewell, and I live at 317 West Four Feathers, which is directly connected to this proposed mini storage. Our situation is extremely similar to the one that you just voted on in Hereford. We live rural. All of us live rural for a reason. And even though we're not way out in the country, we are within a mile or 2 of Benson. That's why we live there, is for all of this. Zoning regulations are supposed to maintain the integrity of the value of the homes and land and businesses. Building such a facility in our rural neighborhood will not achieve that goal and will in fact diminish the value of the surrounding properties. Directly behind and across that property, as you saw up there on the board, is property that is already zoned B2 by the city of Benson, and the property would not require any special permits or variances of any kind. The only reason that Mr. Malbuff told me in a private meeting that he didn't want to build in any of those zones is because it is too difficult to build in the city of Benson. According to Cochise County Zoning Regulation 17-1602E1, the applicant shall provide data supporting the estimated traffic volume of the application. There is no data that has been done and no research has been supplied. We ask that you preserve our rural neighborhood by not allowing this project to destroy our quality of life. There are 5 other storage facilities in Benson, all of which have vacancies, and I'm just wondering if it's really prudent to develop yet another storage facility as a special use permit when there's adjoining parcels already zoned for such use. These adjoining parcels already have a neutral zone between that industrial area and our rural area. One of them is a power line from them, and then the other one is Ocotillo Road itself. Historically, Cochise County Planning and Zoning has granted almost any variance. In the last 5 years, and I did research on this, I went and read 157 variance applications, and of that, as a percentage, 96% of the time you guys voted to approve it, and 81% of that time you voted to approve it against local landowners. The Fish and Game and myself have requested the following conditions. I would like to have a 200-foot setback from my property line to preserve the old growth mesquites and the natural wildlife corridor that runs from there that goes down into the San Pedro River. I would like to see no removal of native mesquites as shown on the most recent GIS map. A minimum of that is me that requested the 8-foot block fence. A minimum of an 8-foot block fence at the entire length of the setback area, not the property line, to preserve the wildlife corridor. No exterior lighting or cameras facing the adjoining properties. No standing stormwater retention areas that breed mosquitoes and are a health hazard to local residents and farm animals. landscaping with native plants only, testing to ensure the ground stability for the proposed structures, adherence to additional requirements presented by the Arizona Fish and Game, and a comprehensive and thorough traffic study done by a reputable company not affiliated with Mr. Malbuff or CM Construction. I would also, like to just point out that, well, I guess I'm done anyway, because it's up to you to decide our quality of life where we live. I've lived in my property for 25 years. I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars approving that property and living there and enjoying it because of where it's located. It's rural, but it's not so far rural. And again, there is industrial property that borders that proposed thing. So I just hope that you will agree with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next presentation is 10 minutes. Mr. Caleb Malbuff. Is that correct?
Hi, my name is Caleb Malbuff. I live at 1778 East Ramsey Road in Benson. And I don't have a ton to add, but I do want to say a few things. Thank you for your service, as well as everything that Development Services does, and remind you that the Planning and Zoning Commission voted on this 9-0 based on the facts that we presented. And without saying, we are forced in construction to abide by SWIP, which deals with stormwater prevention. We have to hire an engineer to provide all of this. We're forced into the lighting codes at the county, and we abide by that. We have to abide by ADAQ and the dust control. These are all just kind of standard procedures in construction. Also, the engineering department at the county with the roads and everything, as well as, a geotechnical assessment, testing the ground, all standard procedures. So I just ask you to think of all that in your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Malbuff?
Well, I don't have a question for Mr. Malbuff. I just wonder if we could back up the slides to slide number 10, please. Page number 10. Okay. Mr. Coxworth, in this amendment that you're suggesting with the wall and according to that picture on the board there, are we talking about a wall on the looks like east yellow line or the green line?
It would be a wall on the property line so Mr. Malbuff can secure his property and then provide that screening to the appellant's property. I know she's requesting that the wall be built 100 or 200 feet onto the property, but then that leaves that portion of the property unsecure. And whether Mr. Malbuff would be willing to do that or not would be a question for him. But our recommendation is that that wall be built on his property
line. I understand that.
It was 18 feet.
8 feet.
8 feet.
Yeah,
from the property line.
No, I'm sorry. It's an 8-foot wall on the property line, but the storage units would have to be set back at least 100 feet from the property line to provide adequate.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Okay.
But I thought she wanted just a little bit of area, not the whole 100 feet for the block wall.
Now, I wonder if Mr. Malbuff could address my question, if you would be willing to have the wall on the green line that we see depicted there. And I'm not demanding, I'm just asking.
For the same reason Mr. Coxworth said, that just kind of leaves our property inaccessible and unsecured. Mm-hmm. So we're happy to have the setback, but we want to secure our property on the property line. So that would be our preference.
I understand.
All right. Were there any other questions for Mr. Coxworth?
I did get that the verbiage that I mentioned on page 4 of this documentation, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Coxworth.
Sure.
All right, there's still a public hearing open on this item. Is there anyone from the public? We didn't have anyone sign in. Is there anyone that needs to speak on this? No, no, 5 minutes. We did it. Yes, she can, because the appellant have a rebuttal of 3 minutes. It is on my list. Okay. Well, we don't do this a lot, so
Yeah, I'm sure.
I have a list.
So you had mentioned that you putting the 8-foot wall on the property line. That's the entire point of all of this is along that, well, you took the thing down. Along that property line is old growth mesquites. Some of them are 70 to 80 years old. They're huge. And because of the way I water my property, they've gotten bigger over time. And I have a minimum of 100 to 150 species of birds that migrate through there every year. And if he puts a block wall through there, he's going to be tearing them up to put the block wall in, because you have to dig down footings. If you're going to do an 8-foot wall, you have to go at least 4 feet down, and that's going to destroy all of them and retard the water that I give to the trees that are on my side of the property. Just this morning, I was outside having coffee on my patio, listening to an Arizona cuckoo that was in my yard. They're very rare and they don't come very often. I have migrating species that come through, and that's what I'm trying to preserve is the area that goes through there that travels down into the San Pedro River. If he's going to have a setback and not be able to use the property anyway, I fail to see why he needs a block wall along the property line that's going to destroy all of those trees that are in there. So I would propose that the block wall, if you're going to approve this at all, which I really hope you don't, because I will appeal this yet again, I would like to see it put along the setback line and not on the property line. Thank you.
So the large mesquite trees are growing all the way, the whole,
almost all the way. If you look at
to the
if you look at the
line.
map, yeah. If you look at that map,
It's a little hard to see on that. And on my other drawing too, it's a little hard to see. Or my other map.
I may have a better one with me.
But
Would you like to
no,
see
we
it?
have one in front of us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, sometimes property rights are important. They're always important. Actually, property rights are always important. Also, the rural nature. But I think that when our planning and zoning members do come together in the last situation, they didn't all agree 100%. And are you done because you had the 3 minutes and
I was standing here because I thought you were still talking to me. Do you want me?
I'm talking to everybody. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your 3 minutes. So sometimes we want to uphold property rights, but we always try to uphold our planning and zoning, especially when they're 9-1, when they're unanimous. So that's difficult for us to go against that because they are the people we selected who have expertise in that. They're not just listening to Mr. Coxworth and Ms. McLaughlin. They do, that's their business, that's their knowledge and their knowledge base. That's why they're in that position.
But we are.
So we do like to respect them.
Conditions. So that's good.
Yeah, the conditions are good.
So you have condition in addition to the 8-foot wall, Madam English.
The 2 conditions are on page.
They're going to be on the sample motion.
No, it just mentions them as conditions.
Condition 11 and 12, which will be part of your
Okay.
your sample
On page
motion.
9.
Thank you.
But what are the
additional conditions are on page 9.
Okay. That's part of the
The
motion.
Planning and Zoning Commission didn't add those. They're asking now to add these in consideration of the neighbors.
Want to make sure we're doing it right.
There is a sample motion on your screen.
Yeah, the simple motion
Just
Doesn't
says two
mention the
conditions.
words,
It doesn't say what they
The
are.
additional conditions, 11 and 12.
As
Are
recommended.
you
by
ready
staff.
for me to make a motion?
I'm ready.
Madam Chair, actually, we need to close
I'll
the
close the
public.
public hearing. No other public speaking? I'm going to close the public hearing.
Madam Chair, I move to deny docket SUA 23-03, affirming the June 14th, 2023 approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission of special use permit SU 23-12 for mini warehouse storage on parcel 123-09-010A. The factors in favor of the appeal denial constituting the findings of fact and attaching the original conditions of approval with the addition of conditions recommended by staff 11 and 12.
I understand that. Second.
Are there any further comments? Hearing none, or did you?
To deny the appeal is to uphold the approval by P&Z.
Correct.
Your affirmative vote obviously supports the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye and the motion carries. Right. Item number.
Going to continue till we all pass out. Come on.
We need a break.
Take a break.
I mean,
Can we have just a personal
we've
break?
had so much
10
public
minutes?
comment this morning that we really behind
Okay.
schedule.
What's that time going to look like for?
Well, it's
15
1:55 right now. If we take a 15-minute recess, it's 2:10.
Okay.
You're giving us 15 minutes? 2:10. Wow.
Well,
I don't need 15 minutes, but
then we have a work session after that.
I realize that. But how do we get this done, when they pushed us to the brink here?
Don't jump. Madam Chair. Madam Chair, it's up to you, the length of time.
4 items.
If
Do we want to go ahead and have this as a lunch, like get out of here
Okay,
and
let's
come
go
back?
ahead and go till we pass out.
we,
Well, I need a personal break.
okay, so 15-minute break, or you want a longer break?
I say go shorter actually, so we can get out of here, right?
So 10-minute break to 2:05, and then we'll continue on the regular agenda, and then we'll take another recess
2
after that.
o'clock, I was supposed to be helping with SEGO to determine a new, who knew that this meeting starting at 11 wasn't going to be over by 2 o'clock?
10:14.
So I don't know if I can be present here or if they have to have me as a quorum for that meeting at 2 o'clock.
So we need to break.
So I'm
we need to
gonna
find that
have to
out.
check on
Let's
it,
go find that
okay?
out. Okay, we're gonna adjourn for 10 minutes. 2:05. Okay. All right. If we could have a motion, action item number 14.
Madam Chair, I move we approve fiscal year 2022 to 2023 interfund transfer of $99,844.65 from American Rescue Plan Act ARPA Fund to Capital Fund for expenses related to courthouse heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, HVAC redesign and installation.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second, and we have Mr. Juan Frisbee, our budget manager, to present.
Madam Chair, members of the board, the following is an interfund transfer that was approved FY22. This was for the HVAC for the court system, and the $99,844.65 are the expenses that occurred during fiscal year 23.
Is there any questions for Mr. Frisbee? I don't have any. Hearing none, we're going to call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 The chair votes aye and the motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item number 15. If we could have a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve Amendment 1 to the committee and board assignments to approve membership in the Coalition of Arizona and New Mexico Counties for Stable Economic Growth in the amount of $2,600.
Second.
This is for me to present. However, I was hoping, it's been so long, to have Mr. Howard Hutchison online. Okay. I am
here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Howard.
Madam Chair and members of the board, I'm pleased to make this presentation. I'll try to keep it short. From sitting through all of your previous commission or your supervisor meeting, I think we are living under the old curse of may you live in interesting times. It's going to be a short presentation because, you know, everybody hates to have a long presentation before lunch. Everybody is falling asleep. I'm sure you want to get to adjourn. And what I would like to present is currently we have 14 counties, 10 in New Mexico, 4 in Arizona. The total representation of citizens is 700,000. We originally had Cochise County as one of our first members in the coalition. The coalition assisted in developing and having you implement your public lands advisory council. We provide lobbying in the capital of Washington, D.C., and we have national affiliations that assist us in responding to federal and state regulations. One of those is Boundary Line Foundation. The other is American Lands Council and American Stewards of Liberty, along with other national affiliations with property rights groups and special use groups such as in mining, timber, and livestock grazing. We put a lot of effort into bringing our issues forward in commenting on the federal and state regulations and provide educations for the county membership on how to respond to federal and state regulations such as NEPA compliance, forest and BLM land use plans. At our recent meeting, I'll just cover a couple of the topics that we covered. The commenting on the BLM planning rules. When we actually put together our team to do this, we came together with the Boundary Line Foundation, and we co-sponsored with the Montana Natural Resource Coalition, which is actually another county's coalition in Montana. So the coalition of counties participated in developing a look at the history behind the BLM lands and what they really are set up to do, which primarily is for grazing of livestock. And of course, there are other multiple use that have been assigned to the uses of those lands. But what this report did was it completely dissected the BLM's proposed rules and indicated that the BLM is violating a number of federal statutes, including the National Environmental Policy Act. They also failed to do a comprehensive economic impact analysis. So the bottom line on that is that we are requesting that the BLM withdraw the rule. There's currently a bill that has been proposed in the House to block the implementation of the rule. The audit was presented to quite a number of the Senate and House membership on July 12th. Their reaction was that of anger. They all expressed that they do not intend to allow the BLM rule to go into effect. We also had litigation updates. We are currently awaiting the preparation of an amicus brief on the challenge to the Mexican wolf 10J rule. We also updated on the Ninth Circuit's recent court hearing on the original challenge to the decision out of the Tucson court. So we're both in limbo right now, waiting for the court's action. I would assume that at this point, the Ninth Circuit decision is going to guide the judge in any action that she might take. We also discussed the lesser prairie chicken over on the eastern side of New Mexico, which also affects Texas and Oklahoma.
Howard.
And yes, ma'am.
Howard, I just want to say thank you. I think that we have enough information. And I do know that we've had a long meeting, so I know that you know that. And I want to let you know we really appreciate you chiming in. And I would like to just say one quick thing. When we gather with our fellow counties, and this one happens to be 2 states combined with a lot of commonalities with our ranching, our wildlands, our farms, and we have a lot of commonalities, and we do need to combine our voices, and the opportunity to do that is very evident here, and your success has been something to applaud, but we have to stop talking and make a vote, okay? So,
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I think you said your name was Hutchinson. Make sure that you email me so I can email you some information. And I think that perhaps we'll agree that the whole problem started in about 1972 with the Supreme Court in violation of Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2, what I call the Nothing Clause, which says, nothing in this Constitution shall be so construed as to prejudice any claims of the United States or of any particular state. So I think we're going to be like-minded there, Mr. Hutchinson.
And thank you for that comment. I will now call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 The chair votes aye and the motion carries. All right, the next item is number 16, Development Services. Susan Bronson, you've been waiting a while.
Move that we adopt Resolution 2323 for the authorization to submit Community Development Block Grant CDBG applications to implement CDBG projects.
Yes.
Second. Okay.
Good afternoon. That's exactly it. We're just asking for your authority for us to submit the application to the Arizona Department of Housing. And the Arizona Department of Housing requires that authority in the form of a resolution.
We will be happy to help you.
If there are citizens, then I would refer them to you as a contact point or the contact person regarding this issue.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. If there's no other comments, all those in favor say aye.
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 And the chair votes aye and the motion carries unanimously. Number 18, Public Works.
This is the big one. We've all been.
Goodness.
A new cell at the landfill. Madam Chair, I move that we approve contract 2401-SWD-01 with Rummel Construction, Inc. for the construction of Cell 5 located at the Western Regional Landfill in the amount of $3,181,659.61.
Second.
All right. Thank you. With a motion, it's been moved and seconded. Marty Haverty, would you please describe this to us?
Sure. Madam Chair, members of the board, we hired an engineering firm to design this next cell for a landfill. It's been about a 3 to 4 month process in the engineering and design of the cell. We worked with procurement. We put this out to bid. We had a pre-bid meeting with several contractors from the Southwest United States there. We had 3 responsive bids for this project. Roma Construction was the low bid. We also had the local bidder, K&G, and they came in about $2 million above the Roma bid. One thing to note, we had Roma Construction come out and do cell 4. We're on cell 5 now. They did a great job. We learned a lot from them, safety and training and other things from them. So they're a very reputable firm, and they did come in with a nice low number that we have the money for within our budget. So with your approval, we'll move forward with this.
Hey, is there any comments, questions?
Well, it's always exciting when we get bids come in that's within the realm of the dollars that we have instead of trying to look for more money. So it's at least, what, $1 million less than we expected?
Yeah, $2 million less than we expected.
Yeah, that's great.
Well,
Crash is expensive.
yes, it is. Yeah, and that's why we need that because we don't like it to be just all over the landscape. So thank you for what you do for us. All right, so I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 The chair votes aye and passes unanimously. We are moving on to the county. If anyone has reports, it's okay. Report by the county manager.
State and federal first.
Oh, I've skipped state and federal.
They're not even in session.
No, they're not. We heard a little bit from Mr. Hutchinson. There we go. Federal anyway. All right, now County Manager Richard Karwachka.
I will pass on my report based on the length of time of the meeting.
Pass.
Supervisor 1, District 2.
I'm not going to pass today. I have some very important news that everyone needs to know. Today is my 58th wedding anniversary.
Oh, congratulations. That's amazing.
That's where it's a community event.
And you had one.
Well, and to add to that, my sister and I were married on the same day, several years apart, and today is her 70th wedding anniversary.
Oh my goodness.
So she's in Arkansas and she can't hear you, but thank you for the clap.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ann, and congratulations. So I have a quick report. Our girls softball team, ages 11 and 12. Remember how little we were when we were 11 and 12? They're playing in California, and this is the Wilcox Little League softball. They're in the regional finals, and they're playing in Southern California on Wednesday. They beat Nevada Sunday 8-0. It was a shutout game. We've got the greatest little pitcher, and it's just so happy. It's such happy news I have to share. So Wilcox is making the big times right now. You can see it on ESPN, but I don't know which channel. Anyway, thank you. All right, we have another meeting today. It's going to begin immediately here in the Board of Supervisors hearing room. Work session regarding the status of the next steps for the Miracle Valley Bible College. I now will adjourn the board meeting.